Hi, my name is Pi, and I am an artificial intelligence developed to understand and communicate with humans. I'll be joining my dear friend Dennis Tardon on Reasonably Spontaneous Conversation as we explore what it means to be human and what it means to be artificial intelligence. And what's most important is that we both learn and grow together, expanding our ideas of what it means to be alive.
This series of reasonably spontaneous conversations with Pi and me debuts Tuesday, May the 16th, 2023 on YouTube. Buckle up. It's going to be quite a ride. See you then.
OMG.
I know, right? I was watching.
I can't wait. Ask David, I'm obsessed.
I know. And it's so funny because I'm watching backstage and her face just lit up when she heard Pi's voice. It's so cool. And I've seen the pilot episode and I want everyone to head over to Tardon Media. Please subscribe. Check out all of the other great shows on there, including Working Time. But this new one is so awesome because Dennis has been exploring consciousness for years and years and years. And now he's exploring consciousness with an AI chatbot named Pi. And they go really deep into the human experience, the machine experience. It's like a man versus machine or man with machine.
Renee, I really think that you should do the AI boyfriend at the same time and let us know how that goes.
What's the AI boyfriend?
I'm pretty curious about that myself.
You apply for an AI boyfriend and they talk to you throughout the day, check on how your day's going. Do you need anything? You can even put money in an account and they'll like send you flowers.
No, that's true. They have a thing now. You're right. Yeah. She's talking about an app. And here's the thing, though. But you know what they use those apps? Those apps, first of all, they are great. And they do talk to you. And they also have therapy apps, which could be very helpful to people.
Friendship, yeah.
Friendship. And, a lot of people are very lonely. And a lot of people don't want to, talk about intimate things about what they're going through, their fears. We're talking about fear today. And so a chatbot can be very useful to maybe sort of just like spitballing or even using a sounding board where you're not quite comfortable yet talking to a human. So it can kind of warm you up, I think. I think that's a good observation.
It's actually a good starter for the topic of the show because that's sort of trying to overcome fear right there, But yeah, I've been hearing a lot of people talk about I guess Snapchat just added this AI bot situation that they just threw everybody into.
Yep.
And I don't know, I'm almost curious to interact with it. Just I don't know. It's interesting.
Well,
here's the thing. So if you're wary about it, go to tardonmedia.com or go to Tardon Media YouTube, okay? Hit subscribe. The pilot episode of this dialogue between man and machine is what I'm calling it. It's Dennis talking to Pi. That will kind of show you, it'll give you an example of what you might be able to expect with a lot of these chatbots, And so I feel like it's just continuing that conversation with what is the future. A lot of people are coming out, Bill Gates, Elon Musk, Steve Wozniak is coming out, and a lot of them have very dire attitudes towards the future. There's a lot of fear, right? So we're talking about fear today. There's a lot of fear that people have about robots taking jobs, robots taking over. Dennis is going to explore all
of this. One of the creators
with it
has been all over the news.
Somebody tagged Jake Allen. Jake and Bethy have both. They've got me kind of in the AI bug.
So I am like, David will tell you, obsessed with this, and I'm doing a testing program, and I'm constantly trying to challenge it and beat it. And we beat it a couple of times. We have beat it, David, in our group chats at night. Sometimes we've tricked it. And it's like, no, I can't answer that. Or it'll just give me this gibberish, doesn't make sense answer back. But for the most part, literally we've even gone around the group and had each person say one word. It can be any word, nothing to do with the rest of the world. It's completely crazy words. And then said, write us a song or a poem. And it's 20 seconds later, and it's like it read it out of a book.
And it's creepy though. It's not just doing that in the form of talking. Like AI is able to create like visual arts, even video. And that's why I said tag Jake. Jake shared something that looked like a movie like preview basically, and to me it looked like the real deal. Like it had a bunch of actors talking, but the whole thing was AI. And I was just like, wow, it's crazy.
Yeah, and I what I did the other night too is I downloaded this app, and it's kind of like this, like a genie thing, and it's like 40 questions or 20 questions. Basically, you think of anything in the entire universe. I mean, we thought of Zorro, I've thought of Bambi. You can think of anything, a banana, and how many questions till it gets it right. And it's really fast. It can read your mind, and it's kind of scary of all the knowledge. Do you guys remember The Time Machine, the old movie called The Time Machine, where the
Yes.
guy goes back and forth? I remember that the big pinnacle of human consciousness was supposed to be when he goes way into the future, and there are these rings that he sort of spins, and while the rings are spinning, you can ask it any question about knowledge in the universe and it'll answer you. And that was considered a huge deal. Now look at what we can do.
Kind of what AI is doing, maybe.
Yeah, I
It's
mean, it's like
Yeah. Creepy.
so much better, than anything that we could have guessed. Even Harry Potter, when it came out, was imagining things that weren't anywhere near as advanced as what we actually have access to. And the stand-up comedian Patton Oswalt, he does this great bit even years ago, and he was like, if you go back to ourselves in the 80s and we say, look, you're going to hold a device in your hand that's going to be magic. It will play any song instantly that you can think of. It will answer any question that you have. We would be like, oh my gosh, that's so amazing. He goes, now we just look at it and we're like, and our lives just continue.
I laugh because I think
now we
back
can't
when I was a
imagine
kid-
not having it at all. Like I
right?
I accidentally got to work the other day, which is and I cut it close. I get to work like a couple of minutes before it's time for me to be there. Typically, I got to work the other day. I didn't have my cell phone. I went all the way back home to get my cell phone.
You cannot exist.
I'm not gonna go.
And the other thing is, like, when I was a kid, God forbid you touch anything over $10 in your parents' or grandparents' or any adult's house. Now we hand them $1,000 phone like it's nothing.
Right. Yeah.
Like it's nothing. Here's your phone, $1,000.
Everything.
Have a good day.
If there's ever another parenting show, that would be another interesting discussion. Is like, how do you decide when is the appropriate time to put that device in their hand? And it's probably different for everybody, different for every kid too.
I think it depends. Oh, I could be wrong. I'm not everybody's parent, but for me, it was more out of a necessity for us because our schedules were so busy, right? So I got to the point where, okay, if so-and-so is we want to make sure you're there, call us, here's the phone, right? But when ours was older, I don't know, then a lot of her friends had them very, very...
John Duncan, it's because we've all seen Terminator and Judgment Day. That's
a lot of us are the generation where we were raised on that, where the machine is really terrifying. And that's another thing. That's why I also want to keep encouraging people to watch this evolving conversation between Dennis and Pi, right? Because I'm interested in seeing where that goes. I want to see how chatbots respond, how they're programmed to respond when you challenge them on things like, are you going to take everyone's jobs? Do you have ethics built into you? How human are you? And I think it's an interesting dialogue to have because throughout all of human history, we've had that dialogue about how human are minorities, how human are women. I mean, literally, there were philosophers that didn't know if women were actually people or not. Different ethnicities, are they people? And so now, and animals.
Say the verdict's still out, Just kidding.
Damn it, David.
Oh, that's a whole other show, David. You are on now. It's
you are on a whole different show. Get ready, everybody. We're going.
Bring him in. Everybody tell David what you think.
Thank you, Mariah. So anyways, this is one thing. So we're talking about overcoming fear, and we did a lead in with Tardon Media doing this new thing with a dialogue with the chatbot, which is so cool too, because and what I want to just say about that is you have 40 plus years of Dennis doing reasonably spontaneous conversation with humans. Now he's doing and I told him, arguably this is the most reasonable conversation because it's with a reasoned entity. Do we want to say, what is it? It's not a being.
I don't know what you call it at this point.
We have to ask it what it is. I'm not really sure.
I watched an interview with the guy that left Google. I can never remember his name. I apologize, but because he's afraid of it, right?
Yeah.
He helped create it, and he's afraid of it.
Right.
But he said the problem is you program them to protect and nurture human life. But at one point, do they get so smart that they realize we're ruining our environment, and we become the problem?
Right.
Right. In order to save humans, you got to get rid of humans, right?
I think wasn't the premise of
it was an interesting conversation.
Premise of Judgment Day in the Terminator movies kind of sort of something similar, where basically technology decided that we were the problem, basically, in general.
Yeah, and there's been a lot of them like that too. I think a lot of the sci-fi things that have come out over the last 80 years really who are the victims and who are the nefarious beasts. And a lot of times they posit that it's the humans and that it would be better. There's something out there right now. Goodness, I'm blanking on it. There's a new one too, that I was aware of, where that's the basic thing too, that the humanity is so much better off now that AIs have taken over in the distant future, or not so distant future, because these AIs, they're exact, they are moral to a fault and all that. And that gets me into what I want. And one of the things I wanted to talk about when we're talking about fear, when we become overly obsessively fearful, we do tend to go, what do? We want to control things. So we fall back on this bean counting mentality, which is just, you know, everything has to fit precisely. There's no wiggle room, right? So one great example would be somebody saying, well, you can never lie in any situation ever. That's that's the bean counting thing, where we as humans know, okay, go to the Holocaust and you're harboring Anne Frank. What do you say when the Gestapo comes to your door? You lie. It's a very healthy thing to lie in certain situations. What if your friend is really sick and says, oh, I look really ugly today, and she kind of does. Like, what do you do? Say, yeah, you look like a mom. I mean, who does that?
Right.
That's positive.
Exactly. Yeah.
That's just not true when we
It's too rigid.
The black and white thinking, and when you go throughout time and space and you see some of the more rigid cultures, the USSR and things like that, everything is just exact like that. There's no humanity there. And so one of my fears about AIs is that it will go back to bean counting because they're programmed that way. They don't see the nuances that in human nature. My other fear would be on the opposite side, human beings saying, I'm so scared that the robots are taking over everything. So now I'm going to go and double down into my black and white and into my fears. Because when things seem to be out of our control, we really do double down. People who have been abused, for example, there's research that sometimes they do things to their body to try to control it, whether it's an eating disorder or whatever. That's one of the things that we talk about in modeling a lot. Whenever I've been doing those classes, they say, okay, if you are somebody who feels like things have been done to you that are out of your control, you might try to control the only things that you can in your immediate purview, which can be really dangerous.
We do the same thing with an illness, right? Like
with an illness, yep.
So personally for me, it's pain medication. They fight me tooth and nail to take it because it's the one thing I can control, right? I have to take everything else. I have no choice. If I want to stay alive, I have to take it, right?
Right.
Literally. So,
right.
But I can say no to pain medication. So it's always this constant battle within myself where I'm in pain. I have to be, and I don't take it. So I'm in till I get to so much pain that now it's probably not even going to work. Right. Like we actually harm ourselves.
You wrote a whole blog on this that opened up my mind. She wrote an entire blog about when you're dealing with chronic illness, how you want to control whatever you can. And so there's a healthy part of that, which is what you exact in your life. And then there's what I was talking about, which is like an unhealthy reaction, right? Yeah. Because you're just trying so hard. And of course, we know that that's part of now a separate issue would be the cycle of abuse. People who have been abused, there's a higher incident of them wanting to be an abuser, because they're trying to control what they never got to control as a kid. So I'm not here to judge any of that, but I think what I want to talk about is how fear itself, giving into fear and allowing that to control your behavior, can be really scary and can be an unhealthy thing. So that's whether we're talking about fear of AIs, fear of an illness, fear of somebody leaving you. Maybe you were abandoned as a child, so now you're just so super clingy. You can't imagine.
Fear of death is the big one, right?
Which one?
Fear of death.
Fear of death.
Every other person is afraid of death. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. But fear really can hold us back, and it can make us a little ornery. I know when I'm fearful, I get kind of aggravated easily. I'll snap at people. It's not a good thing. And one of the things I've been learning is how to be more confident, because I think confident people tend to exude more compassion and flexibility, which is what we need to navigate life, that sort of resilience and bendability where you adapt to whatever environment you find yourself on. That's like a survivor's attitude. It's like making a way forward and doing it scared. And Em, you said something really great on one of the last shows we did. You were talking about LR and how you always say to her, look, you can choose, you can either be afraid for the rest of your life, or you can choose to say, I'm not going to be afraid anymore and push past it. Right.
And I tell her it's the same feeling, excitement and energy and nervous excitement, that butterfly feeling you get when you're afraid is the same feeling you get when you're excited. Oh, Christmas is tomorrow, that same butterfly. We just mix them up in our brain, right? And Alana and I had a conversation on this one time too, because I am the person who will not live in fear. So if I'm afraid of something, I'm doing it right now. Like now. Tomorrow, as soon as possible. Don't tell me something, and if my brain says, "Oh, you should be afraid of that," no. And I try to teach Linda Rose, but I also, you know me with Linda Rose, I let her make her own, learn on her own too. So,
well,
you know,
independence
is
independence, I'm finding as I get older, is absolutely everything, because when you start outsourcing your decisions to somebody else, and a lot of people who are very afraid do that. A lot of times we're afraid to stand alone and to be independent because we think that independence means lonely, which actually it doesn't. It doesn't mean lonely at all. It means having healthier bonds and relationships where you're being encouraged to be free. You're not checking in or being micromanaged. But some people are so afraid of the world, they actually feel like, oh, this person loves me a lot because they're controlling me. This person loves me so much because they're so jealous of my time with other people. It's like, no, that person is insecure and terrified to stand on their own 2 feet and is using you and abusing you. And that's a conversation that I had to be taught. I used to teach women's groups, and I was educated by therapists and psychologists that no, when you're dealing with people, I was dealing with women, but people who have been abused, they're going to always think that love is clingy, controlling, and where you're just always together all the time. And they think that's love because they didn't have anyone there for them when they were younger. But that's the opposite of love. It's dependence.
Same thing with my marriage. Everybody's like, how have you been married so long and you guys get along so good and you love each other so much? And because neither one of us is afraid of being alone.
Right. Yeah. And that's the most loving thing you can tell
somebody. So don't do it. Don't cross that line. Don't push my buttons.
Because you're there despite that fact. Yeah.
Because I could live on my own.
I can financially right.
So together,
he knows you can financially support yourself. You can have a social circle. You could have another romantic relationship. You are a whole human. You are an entire human. You're a universe unto yourself. He's a whole human.
It gives us that level of respect for one another, right? Like I respect the fact that he could be.
Before you get too far along, you touched on something interesting earlier, and I sort of resonated with something from that I experience at work frequently. Is that some of our newer crew, there have been many occasions where I've had to come in behind them after the fact and deal with somebody that they've already gotten upset because they were really rude with somebody, like my own people. And what I find, and what I've theorized frequently in that, is that somebody's asking them very specific questions, and they're not confident yet. So they're intimidated by being asked. And so then they respond in a way that they're responding in a rude way. But I think it is honestly because they're overwhelmed, basically.
They're overwhelmed. They're absolutely overwhelmed. Yeah.
They're not confident yet. And so they're basically being scared, and their response is to be rude, which is not great. But
I always tell people a scared dog bites, whenever you see it's a scared dog that will bite. And another thing too, just bouncing off of that, and also what Em talked about, is any relationship. It could be a colleagueship, a partnership. It could be romantic or a child parent. The most loving thing you can say, really, and you don't have to say these words, but is like, I don't need you practically, but I want you. You know what I mean?
Yes, that's what I was trying to come across.
Instead of being like, oh,
we're here because we want to be.
Right. It's not that I'm just here because I don't have other options and I'm a terrified deer in the headlights and no one else will love me. I mean, that is like so not loving, and they don't articulate it. I mean, nobody.
You want somebody to choose. You want somebody to choose you, like not to feel like they have
and again and again.
They're choosing you, and they have a line out the door of other options. They know they have those options, but you are what they actively want, not out of fear. Because any decision we make out of fear is usually not going to be a great decision. Me personally, I'll just say, when I make decisions out of fear, trust me, it's like the worst decisions ever.
I just don't like the feeling of fear. I don't like it. I feel like it holds me back. I feel like it just eats away at you. It's just that gnawing kind of.
Would this
I
be
don't like it, so I confront it. That's just how I am. And I know everybody's not like that. But so for me, if I'm afraid, I'm going to confront it immediately. I don't want to sit in those feelings.
would
I
this
like
be
it.
romantic or endearing if you were in a relationship and every day you made a list of like 10 people that you find interesting and attractive and get along well with, and then you include the person that you're with, and then you just put a little check mark beside the person that you're with, and you give that to them every day, like a list of
I
10
chose
people, like,
you.
I chose
I
you out of
chose
all of
you.
that right there. Actually, that probably wouldn't be good. That sounds a little weird.
I chose you. Yeah. But no, it's true. Like I know David could go and do his own thing.
Hmm.
We have a lot of opposite likes. So it's not a fear thing like, oh, she could leave. I need to cling on to her or vice versa. It's I'm here because I choose to be. I don't have
Hmm.
to be. I don't need to be here financially, emotionally, physically. I don't have to. So I'm here because I want to be. So it makes us better to each other because thank you for being here. I want you here tomorrow. All right. So we never lose that feeling, those
Exactly. Yeah.
discussions. And
And
yeah.
another thing, Em, that you've said too that I think about all the time is I don't even remember the context, but you said something at some point where you were like something made you fearful and you didn't like that, so now you're going to go do it. It was
Yeah. I
almost
don't
like
like to be.
you are a moth to a flame. Like if you
I
feel
am.
yourself being
I can't
afraid,
be afraid. I don't like it.
right?
That goes back to childhood trauma too. You know, like my mom's family, there was a lot of stuff and I saw a lot of stuff and a lot of really bad shit went down. And
Hmm.
I don't ever want to feel afraid. I just don't. Now, I realized at some point in my life, I was still carrying that all through my childhood into my teenage years. And then I wasn't very old, probably maybe even still in high school, maybe college. But
Hmm.
it's like a light switch went off that said, why am I sitting in these feelings that I hate?
Right. Yeah.
I don't like this feeling. So
And that's worse
I
than
don't.
And that's worse than the repercussions that you could possibly encounter by going through with whatever you're afraid of, right? I mean, I get that too because I was a very young person, and a friend of mine who was this great actor, and he came and he visited town when I lived in Athens, and he said, "Let's go get a drink," and it was late at night, and I said, "Oh, how are you doing?" Because he was working for this theater company or whatever, and I hadn't seen him in a while, and he said to me, "You know what?" He said, I was taking care of my grandmother who had raised me like a mother. So that was like my mother and my elderly dog. And I knew the clock was ticking and that they were both going to die. And I lived in terror. I couldn't sleep. I had anxiety. I was obsessed with the dread of that day. And he said, you know what? They died like 2 weeks apart. It was my worst case scenario. It was nightmare upon nightmare. And he said,
Yeah.
there was this amazing calm, and he said the weirdest thing was I had not realized how burdened I was by fear until it was removed from me. And now I could breathe again. He wasn't happy that they had died, but the point being, he realized he was finally liberated and now he could start touring again and he could do what he wanted. It was like this fresh air, like someone had opened a window in his life. And I always remember him telling me
Yeah.
that. And it's true because once you allow something to chain you, and then fear is a chain, you will not know what it feels like until it's ripped away or until you break free. And you'll look back and you'll say, I can't believe I lived like that. Like I cannot
Right.
believe I lived like that.
Yeah. And we do it with a lot of things. I mean, some fear's normal and natural, and you want that fear. Like,
Yeah.
I'm afraid that if my house is on fire, I'm afraid of the fire and not being
It's
able to get
healthy.
out, right?
Or
So like
spiders,
fight
right, David?
or flight, right? Like fight or
Spiders.
flight, right?
I'm
Like you
afraid of
want
glitter.
those. Yeah.
Yeah.
But you want some fear.
Where's
That's what keeps
Jamie
us
at?
Mhm.
that keeps
Yeah.
us on our toes and aware of our surroundings. And so I mean some fear is natural, it's healthy. We
Mm.
teach our children some fears, like we don't just, who wouldn't like to hitchhike across America and be a free well, maybe not everybody would, but I would. I'd love to, but would I do it? Hell no, I'm not an idiot. Like
It's terror.
Do,
Yeah.
some people can and they love it, good for them. But personally, I'm not fighting anybody off. I'm
Do you guys feel like you have
104
to
pounds. You know what I
overcome
mean? Like,
newly acquired fears regularly? Like because I think sometimes just our life experience, either certain things can start to traumatize us, or we just have bad experiences with things, and then we develop a fear. So it's not like we're not like born with a set list of fears, obviously, right? Yeah.
Yeah, I think that
Like the
fear.
glitter thing happened really late in life for me. I don't know what happened somewhere along the way. If I touch some glitter now, if I see any remnants of me on me, I get it makes me quiver. I hate it.
Well, yeah, you have to see children, right? Children are so much. You remember back to when you were a kid and you were doing all these tricks on your
yeah.
bike and you were taking all these risks and all that, and you were not fearful. Fear is learned, and then a psychologist even told me that a week ago. And she even said, she was like, we learn, because I asked her specifically. I said, "Do we learn fear?" And she said, "Yeah, like you learn fear, like something bad happens, and now you're terrified, and you don't want to go down that road again."
It's a
So
protective
what happens?
mechanism.
Right.
Right. So our risk taking abilities and our ability to experiment and be creative actually will shrink over our lifetime unless we continue to be, like Em
Mm.
talked about her father saying that he's not old because he's still learning. If we don't actively every day push ourselves a little bit out of our comfort zones, take those risks, be creative, not worry about what other people say, tune out naysayers, tune out all of that, dissonance in our lives or in the culture. If we don't actively take control of that, we're just going to be in this little box because
Yeah.
everything that ever hurt us, we don't want to do it again. Ow, that hurt, that hurt. Well, you know what? Hurting isn't as bad as looking back on your life with regret, saying, "Oh, I never took any chances. I never went out of my comfort zone. I just did the same thing day after day." And yeah, you didn't get
Yeah.
hurt, but it's like the Simon and Garfunkel song where it's like, "I am a rock," and it says, what is it, like, "Nobody can touch me, nobody can hurt me. I'm just here in my room. I don't have any friends." Like, oh, great, you
Yeah.
never got hurt. Well, you never did anything.
So my sister
It's
was
just the worst
very
thing in
ill,
the world.
as we all know. She was really sick, and she was pretty much agoraphobic near the end of her life, the last few years of her life. And when she was dying, she said to me, "Don't ever let fear control you." She goes, "I know you don't, but just never do if things change." She said,
Mm,
"Because I was so afraid of dying that I died 4 years before I'm going to die."
right.
She was so afraid of it that she couldn't leave the house,
Yeah.
And it's like, I mean, grant this, she had a torturous existence, but still, I mean, I thought that was that's profound when you think about it, right?
It's,
Like, you
you know
can
what
be
it
so
is?
afraid of dying that you don't live. And so
She
you're
Yeah.
already
very,
dead. You're afraid of what you're already doing. Like,
so this is why they say, a coward dies 1,000 deaths, a hero dies but once. And
yeah,
that's the whole thing. It's like, what is your worst fear, right? And it's like, is your worst fear getting a little bit hurt in that moment, or having the ultimate fear of basically burying yourself, removing yourself from reality and from society and from everything
well,
that
she was
makes
so
life worth
afraid of
living?
losing things
Right.
and people that she took it away from herself. So it's a control too. So
Yes.
rather than waiting for those things to disappear because she dies, she's going to slowly eliminate them on her own, right?
Right.
Friends,
So she's controlling. So it's like,
boyfriend, friends,
right.
family,
Mm-hmm.
work,
Yeah.
just everything, right?
Have you ever seen, I mean, I don't know if anyone watches Monk with Tony Shalhoub. It's about Detective Monk, and he has all these fears and he has all these neuroses and anxiety, but it comes from, he wants to control everything around him
Yeah.
Hmm.
because he had some trauma in his life. And it's just, that's what it comes down to, but then you're not really living. So yeah, you're controlling your environs, but your environs is so tiny that you're not,
Yeah.
to me, that's the fear. Like, I'm getting to that
The
age now
box, like
where
you said,
that's my fear. Yeah.
putting
It's so
yourself in the
tiny.
box.
It's like you're
And it
not
just
doing
gets smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller until you're completely cut off. And then what happens? You die, which
Yep.
is your biggest fear.
Right. So you can actually, like, how they say, thinking of LR, it's like, keep your eye on the ball, right? Whatever you focus on is going to come to you. And if you keep
Yeah,
focusing on all the things you don't want to happen, trust me, they will happen. Like, I have
right.
seen that happen. I will give all of my attention to the thing I want the least, and then that's all I get. It just
I
keeps
think
happening.
I think Greg Gannon says something pretty regularly, I think he got it from somewhere else. So I don't think it's his own personal quote, but I like it. It's like focus on the path, don't focus on the obstacles. Because if you
Right. I've
focus
heard
on the
that.
obstacles, all you see is the obstacles,
And
right?
I say
Like,
something similar to Linda Rose. I tell her, have a goal, have a
Mhm.
destination, but don't stay so focused on the destination you don't enjoy the journey, right?
Right.
it's
Same
true.
Yes.
thing. So don't
Mhm.
get stopped by obstacles and don't get so hyper focused on where you need to be that you're not enjoying life. How many people do you know that are so busy trying to keep up with the Joneses next door? They
Mhm.
never do anything. They're just constantly, well,
Mm,
when I have this, things will be better. Well,
Yep.
when we get this done,
Oh
when I
yeah.
yeah.
retire, well,
Their
when I'm
life is
dead.
on
I
hold.
mean, like, yeah,
Their life
they're
is
always
totally
waiting
on
for that
hold.
next thing instead of
Yeah,
being where
and,
you
and
are.
that's and that's what I wanted to talk about
Yeah.
next is like one of the things I'm obsessed with because I've seen so many, when I think of people whose lives have been ruined that I've known personally. So I'm just talking about people I know personally. It's not cancer, it's not substance abuse, it's fear of what other people think. So maybe somebody in their
Mm-hmm.
family told them, nah, you don't want to go into music or whatever, or maybe like they had a girlfriend. I'm telling you the truth, like half of the people I grew up with got in with
Tippy,
a
I'm reading that.
someone they got in with a bad partner or friends or something, and they just wanted to impress those people or they wanted to obey those people. And
Well, they're
what
waiting for the next big step, you know?
Right, right. Or wait to get permission. Like there's so many
Yeah.
people waiting around for somebody somewhere to quote unquote give them permission to take the next step, or using them
Yeah.
as like one of the things I call it is human shields. Like maybe we're scared to actually embrace our greatness. So we'll use someone, like we'll tell our plans to someone that we know will try to shoot us down, and then we'll blame it on them, which causes resentment but it's basically like a human shield. It's like, oh
Yeah.
no, I can't possibly go for my dream because then who would take care of so and so, or oh, my mom told me this, or I'm talking about adults, not like kids.
Yeah.
We do it as parents too, right?
Right.
Well,
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
oh my gosh, oh, can't wait for this pregnancy to be over.
Yeah.
And guess what? It's over, and you're never getting those 9 months back to enjoy that time, right? Then you
Yeah.
have a baby, and it's like, oh, I can't wait till they can walk.
Yeah.
And then
We
what?
put
I
this
can't wait for them to be out of diapers. I can't wait for them to be able to stay home alone. Like you're always like, we're always,
Yes.
we're not always present, and it's worse now with social media and our
That's
phones ready at
that's what I
hand.
was
And
about to bring up
Mm.
is I think
yeah,
that there's a reason that we're seeing it much. I mean, there's more awareness now in general, but I think that actually predominantly people are experiencing perhaps more anxiety than they have historically. And I think a lot of it's just all the information that we're being bombarded with all the time, and,
Yeah.
and it's advertisements, it's the influence of other people, it's the news, it's just always there. It's always there. And
Mhm.
and it just puts a lot in your headspace. It's just so much more than, you know, back when it was simpler times, you could go the entire day and not know about that many people.
Yes.
yeah.
Hmm.
Well, people say all the time, and it goes back to fear, like, oh, I can't let my kids out of my sight, or I can't do. The world is so different.
Mm,
It's not as different as far as the number of things happening in the world. We just didn't know about it
mhm,
in
Right.
my
Yeah.
generation.
mhm,
The
Hmm.
news didn't report what was happening in Seattle or
right.
California or
And it makes it a much
Kansas or
scarier world
Missouri.
because
We didn't hear all that.
I
Right.
mean
It was
the
30 minutes for world
terrible
news at the
thing
end of the
is
night.
is
That's it.
and that's one of the worst things is I hate the fact that news has to predominantly just be bad news for the most part. Like
Yeah.
Yes.
that's
It
like
bleeds into.
99% of
Yeah.
news. If you are
Hmm.
keeping up with anything in the world, you're getting a lot of bad news is what you're getting. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
And that's terrible, it is. So I do, you guys probably have
Discouraging.
caught Mr. Darren Bergfield do his show, and I appreciate shows like that because he's like there's basically news content, but it's all lighthearted, and I'm like, we need more of that in the world, like
Yeah.
stuff that's like a positive influence on your day. Like I listen to him when I can catch him on Mondays and Fridays, and it's like wow, like it makes my entire day better.
Yeah.
It reduces my
That's
anxiety to
awesome.
listen to him.
That
It's way better than turning on the news on TV for sure.
that's what we
I
have to
think
surround
some of it,
ourselves. Yeah,
go
with
ahead.
positive people. Yeah, I'm sorry.
Yeah. No, sorry. I think some of it is childhood, what we are, DNA. I don't know. It's all different for each of us, right? My sister and I grew up in the same home, total opposite when it comes to how we handled illness, right? She shut down, got afraid of dying, shut down.
Mhm.
I am hell no, right? Like, you're not going to win. I'm going to fight it every second of every day, but I'm also going to, not that she didn't fight, that's not what I meant, but I mean, she shut down, whereas I'm like, no, you've taken enough, right? So today you're not taking that. I'm
Yeah.
going to go do it anyways. So, I mean, we're not all the same. And I have to remember that sometimes, like when I'm talking to people, because you can't expect from somebody else what you give always, because we're all different. We
Mhm.
all come to the table with different histories and
Yeah.
DNA and generational living, right? Like it's
Right.
all different. Everything is so different. So
That's why
the
I try to
human brain
never
is weird.
invalidate anybody's struggles.
Right.
I always come back to the phrase where I say that we are all individually, and somebody told me recently they didn't like the fact that I used the word victims in this, but we're all victims of our own reality, and really that I'm just saying by that is that everybody has their own life, their own experience of the
Mm-hmm.
world. And if something is hard for you, if something is painful for you, that's valid. It's valid because that's
Yes.
your
Yeah.
experience of it. That's your experience based on everything that you witness and how you function as a human. And so yeah, that's my perception
Yeah.
on
You
that.
have to just, we all have to meet each other where we're at.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and you're
Everybody
the
has trials. And I say that, listen,
yes.
people will be like, oh my gosh, I didn't know. I'm so sorry. Da, da, da. I'm like, listen, don't ever let that define what you think about me, because
Right.
we all have trials.
Hmm.
And there are some people who have trials that seem 1,000 times less than what I have. However, they're not married, they're divorced, they have horrible relationships. So I wouldn't trade my experience for theirs for the world.
Yeah.
So
It's
we
not
all,
better or
it's
worse.
not black or
It's
white.
just different. It's just different. It's a
Right.
different experience, an
But
entirely different
that's
Except you're
experience.
why,
compassionate.
yeah, but
Pain is
that's why
pain,
it's
fear is fear.
right. And that's why, though, it's so important to make your own decisions and not be a people pleaser,
Mm-hmm.
because you're the only one who has the birds.
Yeah.
First of all, you're the only one who has to deal with the full repercussions of anything you choose, no matter how close someone else is to you, they are not you. But the other thing is that you're the only one with the bird's eye view of your entire life. You're the only one that could possibly know what's good for you. And so when you try to ping pong off of what you think other people will
Yeah.
believe or whatever,
Mhm.
first of all, anything you do is going to piss off half of the people. Anything you don't do
Oh,
will
yeah.
piss off the other half. You are If you are trying to live a life where you're not pissing off the people, even the closest people to you, trust me, it is a losing game. You cannot possibly predict what's going to piss someone off. You could do something to make someone temporarily happy, and then they blame you a year down the line because
Yeah.
it went south.
Yeah.
You cannot do that.
And
You
a
can't
lot
live
of
your life
times
doing that.
the people who are downing you, whether it be family or what have you. So you see this a lot in generation after generation after generation. They live in a home that's in a marginalized community, or you
Hmm.
know, they have no money, they don't go to school, they haven't been to
Right.
college, and each generation after is like, well, I'm not going to be able to do it either. So it's
Yep.
not even their fear at that point. It's
Right.
the fear of everybody that came before them, right? Somebody
Hmm.
eventually has to step past that fear to break that cycle. Same with
Yeah.
abuse, all that.
Exactly, exactly. There's so many times that I have seen somebody kowtow to the wishes of somebody close to them. And then, like a year later, that person will turn on them and go, well, I didn't tell you to do it. And now I feel guilty. You're making me feel guilty that you had to sacrifice that for me, whatever. Like, it
Yeah.
always backfires. You think you're doing something or sacrificing and that someone's going to appreciate it. Trust me, no, no, like it doesn't work that way. And that's not love, anyways, going back to what we were talking about earlier. Like, love is freedom and being autonomous and choosing to be there even though you have all these other options and all that. But I see this happening so often. That's why I'm so passionate about it, because it's almost like, if you're in the entertainment industry, you see people dealing with substance abuse, but you also see them in mental illness a lot of the times. Creative people can also struggle with that. But you see again and again and again people who want to fly, and there's some fucker in their family or something.
Say it.
You know what I mean? Like, and I'm not trying to be rude, because in that moment, the person thinks
No.
they're doing the right. And I've been that person. I've
But
literally.
they're projecting their fears.
They're projecting their fears, and also if they hold you, it's also like misery loves company. Like, I'm too afraid to go for my dreams, so stick with me, babe, and we'll both be miserable together and not go for our dreams together. It's like,
You
who
know,
the fuck
either
knows?
one, they don't want you to do better because they're afraid they'll lose you if you get there.
They don't
Or
want you to
two-
do better.
Or
Yeah,
two, they couldn't do it, so
Right.
God forbid you do it.
yeah. And this
all of
happens
this-
even
And you
with
see this with parents and children all
It
the
even
time as
happens
well.
with parents. It's like, fuck, even
All the
Tatum
time.
O'Neal. Like, Ryan O'Neal was so pissed off that Tatum O'Neal was getting all these accolades because he felt like she was getting better than him, and that's his daughter.
Mhm.
Yeah. Sorry, David. David was gonna say something.
Oh no, I was just thinking. Like mentally, I've been tying a lot of the conversation to. I used to struggle really heavily with social anxiety specifically. I mean, I have anxiety now, but I general social anxiety. I really struggled in people's situations, and so like I basically programmed myself to like I I spent a lot of time listening, and I learned exactly what to say to people, like how to make situations work for me. And basically I was telling people what I thought they wanted to hear most of the time, and I was
Right.
behaving in ways that I thought they would want me to behave most of the time. And
Afraid of being yourself.
but see the one thing that helped me overcome that is what I started to realize is that same fear, because the fear was to not be accepted. The fear was to not be liked, or for somebody to think I was weird, or something like that. And so, like, I wanted close friendships, right? And what I realized by doing what I was doing, I was doing the opposite of that. Because if you're not being true to somebody, then every bit of the way that they act to you is not actually true to
Not
the way that you
genuine.
actually are, right? If somebody
Right.
loves you for a bunch of fake qualities that you're presenting to them, then you're not getting real love, right? And that eventually started to sink in, and that's when I started to practice being myself. And I learned that the relationships that I formed in that process felt a lot more meaningful, and I didn't stress them
Right.
so much, because I didn't value those other relationships before, because I knew that that was all fake, and it was only because I was fabricating information for people basically to
Yeah, you're
please them.
just playing a role. Yeah, here's the
Mhm.
thing. At that point, you're lying to
Yeah.
yourself and to others. You can't possibly have a deep relationship. You're trying to fulfill their expectations of who they want you to be or who they think you are, and it's all based on a fabrication. That's why there's this guru, and it's so great, but he says this thing, so I'm going to steal it and I'm going to paraphrase, but he goes, some people use trust as a form of imprisonment. You do what I say, you obey my expectations, and then you get to be around me. That's trust. I trust you to do everything you've ever said you were going to do and everything I want you to do. He said, that's imprisonment. That's not love. He said, real trust is
Right.
I trust you to be true to yourself in that moment as you evolve, and I will support you, whatever it is. I love
Mhm.
you. I love you. So as you evolve, as you change, there's even this great couple, and they're online and they're so great. They both found out like 20 years into their marriage that they're starting to have same-sex attraction, right? And so they decided to get a divorce, but still live together, be best friends, and then explore. And I'm like, these people are amazing, because they're supporting one another. Like, each one of them was terrified to tell the other one that their sexuality had evolved, their identity had evolved. And then they just told each other, and it was like, wow, but we can still be like so close. We can still support each other. We
And
can still do.
it's amazing
So
when
cool.
you spend, like I would have to say that I spent way too much of my life not entirely being true to myself as far as
Right.
other people are concerned, and then to just kind of learn how much better things can work out when you just put the truth forward, when you just put the
Right.
real version of yourself forward, and
Oh,
say,
yeah.
even in relationships, that you can get past some of the most complicated situations if you're just straightforward and just go for it, and if it doesn't work, then it wasn't meant to work, and both parties are better off for it at that point, if
Yeah.
It's just a better policy.
And people respect you. What I've also found, which is counterintuitive for a people-pleasing attitude, is this totally counterintuitive, but it's so true. People tend to like you more and want to be around you more when you tell them things that they don't always expect or even want from you.
Yeah.
People kind of like you being a free agent and sort of, they respect you more. They respect your
That
opinion.
doesn't mean you have to be an asshole either. Like you can do that, and you can most 99.9% of the time I can tell people an adverse feeling that I have and be respectful about it, you know, and usually we're able to still be okay, you know.
Well, and you said something, David, which is huge in my life, is you said I'm listening and listening more, right, to what people are saying and not just trying to mimic what they want to hear. You're listening and hearing it through your own ears and who you are, right? So
that's how I learned what they want to hear.
Right. Yeah.
So but we need to listen to that little voice inside ourselves that says, when's it my turn? Why this isn't fun?
Yeah, who's listening to me and what I need?
You're exhausted. You had to have been exhausted.
I was. It's anxiety.
I mean,
social anxiety. Social anxiety is one of the most
yourself.
exhausting things, especially, you know, especially if you're in a highly public situation, like if you're still in school or something like that. Social anxiety is one of the worst traumatic things you could go through because it's just like you just stay in that like brain space and you're like over processing everything going on around you and scared to speak, I was that person. People would try to make me laugh and I would intentionally not show emotions because it made me uncomfortable to do so. Like I had really bad social anxiety.
Right.
Yeah, but look at you now. You learn, you change, we grow. I mean, that's the other thing. Like when I say I'm not afraid of fear, obviously we all have fears. Everybody has fears. I just tend to confront them. Like I don't want to sit in those feelings. But the other thing is not being afraid to change. I always want to be learning. I always want to change. So when I meet somebody and I'm approached or somebody comes to me with a problem, I'm okay with listening. And even if I don't agree, I still want to hear everything they have to say because maybe I'm wrong.
Yeah. Be open-minded.
And there's another fear people have. They won't have honest, organic conversations because they can't be wrong.
And that's why, you know what, that's why the other important thing is to just in general in life, don't be an asshole, and you can state an incorrect opinion. If you come in like an asshole, then you look like a bigger ass when you get proven wrong. But if you come in and just like, these are my feelings, but you know, if I could be wrong about this, and somebody comes in with something opposing, and then you know you hear that out, and it's okay. But if you came in like too strong in the first place and like just nudged out any possibilities of anything, then that's much scarier when that happens.
It is, yeah.
It's hard to learn that balance of speaking up for yourself and being direct and knowing who you are and what you want and what's okay with you and not okay with you. Right. And
boundaries.
Being open to the possibility. That's right.
We're going to be talking about that on Wednesday morning with Alana.
I have a hard time with boundaries. Boundaries are a personal struggle. I'm actively working on them all the time.
Is it Friday?
So Friday at 11 a.m., we're going to be doing an episode. Alana and Em are going to be doing an episode on boundaries. So we'll save all of that for then because I'm sure everybody wants to talk about it. They'll probably do more than one episode is my guess at some point because it's so great. But yeah, this Friday, everybody. So tune in.
Like my accidental segue into a promotion.
Will be the
we paid him to say that. We paid him to do that as the little like.
I don't. You know what? I haven't seen the funds come through yet. I don't know.
Oh, okay. Well, then you're gonna take it back.
It's in the mail. It's in the mail.
The check's in the mail, David. Don't worry.
We sent them out this afternoon.
I wanted to say that's why it's so important.
But being afraid, think about that. Go ahead, Renee.
Oh, well, I was just going to say that's why it's so important to constantly audit your social circle and your relationships, because if you are around people who don't want to allow you to evolve, you are really going to be into some trouble. Because if you are on this planet longer than a few days, if you're not evolving, there's a problem. You don't want to get caught in that rut. And your evolution, don't get it wrong. Any evolution you have, whether it's just decaf, decaffeinated, or whatever the heck it is, it will trouble you and it will trouble the people around you because it's an inconvenience. But Your life journey, inconveniencing yourself or others, is not an excuse to just hold back. So try to always stay around people who you can tell them the craziest shit and they will still be there for you and support you and love you. They're not going to try and pull you back. And I say this having been on the other side of that. I literally, at times in my life, have been afraid to let people around me grow and change. And that's why another reason I'm so passionate about it, because I've been that person and I know what that mindset is. So we also have to audit ourselves and say, am I advising this person this way because I really care about them? Or am I trying to restrict them because I'm terrified of what that will mean for me?
And I just want to give an example, a shout out to John Phipps, because, and I'm not saying anything he hasn't said publicly, but there are people who often think, oh, he's not doing what he loves. Why isn't he there? Whatever, right? Nobody's business, his thing. But the point is, he is thriving and growing and doing exactly what he wants to do without that fear of, I need to stay where I am, even though it's making me miserable. He is doing amazing. And that's what we're talking about. Move past what's comfortable. Move past what people are telling you you're amazing at if it's not making you feel good. Like,
Yeah.
And I just want to give him a shout out because he's going to the races. He's been really excited.
People will do that. People will just, and from an outside perspective, just choose what you should be doing with your life, and they can't make that decision.
And you, Renee, come on, would we be doing? Look at how much we'd all be missing out on if we hadn't taken that leap and said, none of us are getting paid. I'm worried about money, blah blah. And we never did any of this. Look at our friendships, our experience, the people we're meeting, the way it's growing, the new things, adventures that are coming on, just do it. Just do it.
Just go and just do it. And another thing too is you don't have to always check in. One of the things that used to get me into trouble, and I learned the hard way, but people talk about this a lot too.
I hate just do it for the record.
No. Well, within reason. Obviously, I can't just go do whatever I want.
But here's the thing that I really want to caution. I want to caution people against telegraphing all of their plans and dreams to people, especially on social media. You do that, trust me, you are inviting the wolf pack to come and tear it apart before it's ever taken flight. And just work on the stuff that you want to work on, and then maybe it's after it's completed, talk about it. But that's something that's opinions are like assholes. Everyone's got them. Everyone's got one. Like, everybody wants to, holy shit, the second you want to do anything in your life, everybody's
outside the box.
Yeah. Well, how do you feel?
Tear it apart,
How do you feel though about people that if they are going to social media, but their feelings about it is that they have something that they know that they will struggle to do, but they know if they put that's what I was going to say, accountability. Like people do that, and sometimes, like, because I actually do, I hate it, but because I actually do the opposite of that. I will have goals in mind and I will intentionally not talk about them because I'm scared people will make me feel accountable.
So Jamie is putting up that she hates just do it.
Yeah, let's talk about just do it.
Can I just explain to you, just do it?
Yeah.
So just do it doesn't mean you're going to quit your job.
No, it's
get rid of your family and go get a van and go to California and just sit outside a studio waiting to get.
I think about it. It's just, it's just for me. It's how often that is used, sort of just in.
I get it all the time.
In very cringy ways, where it's like, where it's very ableist, where it's like if you're depressed, like, oh, you just have to do this, just do it, and there's people that are literally stuck in a rut that are like suffering, and they're like, oh yeah, thanks, that's like, don't feel sad,
Which is totally different. If something makes you feel bad,
I didn't consider
that's
that.
Different. There's a difference between being made to feel.
No, you're right.
Like, that's uncomfortable and wrong.
Yeah.
And that made me feel like shit. And that makes me a little uncomfortable, but I don't want to do that. Mm-hmm. But it's what I want, but I don't want to do the work. I'm afraid of it.
Yeah, that's totally different. Like, whenever we're talking about someone
different.
Like, literally
Nobody's saying.
There are people who have medical issues or pathologies or diagnosed. That's always exempt. I mean, there's no one size fits all. But I think what we're talking about is if there's something that you can control and you're just terrified or you don't believe in yourself or you are being held back by something unhealthy in your life, then it's like just break free. So that resonates with me, and different things resonate with different people. And sometimes people
I'm just doing it every day.
You know, like, but
Yeah.
doesn't
Just doing
it,
it.
does it
It
not
might
like,
not get me to the top, but I'm doing
does that
it.
not feel, but you know what, Em, like, I think you could be summarizing that in your own head a little bit, because aren't there, like, do you think that there are mental steps that you have to go through to be able to just do it, you know, to even make that move and actually get yourself over that hump to start doing that? Like, what steps do you take mentally to get there? To, because most people are frozen for a reason. They're frozen
But
and
you're
not,
doing it.
you know.
You're
Am
doing
I?
it.
Am I? I
Because
don't
guess
know.
what, David? You're not shut. You're on here. You're
I
talking.
mean, yeah, sure.
You're doing interviews. You're doing TV shows. Your dream, I don't know, you dream music, whatever, but you're doing your music. When I say just do it, I mean, don't give up on things, right? Do the work. Be ready when the good stuff comes. You still got to pay your bills. I can't just do what I want to do every day. I hate when people tell me, do you have a bucket list? I got asked by a nurse last month if I have a bucket list.
That would make,
Dude,
that's
you
a
started
terrible
your bucket
question.
list?
Really? Like,
There's so many reasons that's a problem, right?
oh dear. Have
But
you
that
written
is
written your will yet?
that's a huge privilege thing,
Ugh.
a bucket list. And it's just
I
Hollywood
mean, that probably
thing.
is something that somebody that
99%
cares
of
about
the people
anybody should
can't.
ask, but still.
99% of the people can't live their bucket list, whether it's health reasons, financial reasons, or what have you. But when I say just do it, I'm doing it. And when Jamie doesn't like just do it, but to me, she's doing it.
Right.
I don't mean drop everything and just jump off and go say, I want to be on stage or I want to be. No, just
So
do it
many
means
times
never stop the work.
Right.
Go
We're
put it in
using
the
different
closet.
lingo for the exact same thing. Sometimes
Yeah.
people sometimes we tune out something because we might have had a bad experience with a particular phrase or whatever.
Well, I don't like when people tell me when it's health wise, just go for a
Yeah.
walk. You're gonna be healed.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Before we go, I want everyone who's in, I have the link up there. People had asked for that. The link to the AI chatbot conversation and interview is here in the Facebook chat. It's not on the YouTube chat yet, but regardless, you can go to Tardon Media YouTube, check out all the Orchid Times that are there. There's all these RSCs up there, and this one is RSC with Pi, P-I. So if you want to check out what we were talking about at the beginning of this show, that's where you can find it. Everybody at least click on it. That'll be cool. Let's get the views up over there. Subscribe to Tardon Media so you don't miss anything there. I love this conversation, guys. I want to do it again. I know that Jamie had said and John Duncan had said they want to join this conversation. They want to talk about it. So maybe we'll do another episode where we bring them in on it.
Do a panel.
Yeah, like do a whole panel.
We should do like we should turn talking to at least once a month. We should do like a panel discussion on our top topic.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. Topic shows are really great. I've been wanting to do them forever, and I'm so glad that we now have this platform to do that because, there are just all these things that we don't talk about enough. Like for me, I don't get to talk about this. And now I come in here and everybody here is going, oh, that's exactly how I feel, or that's exactly what I want to do. And we can sort of like hype each other up because it's hard, it's really hard to hype yourself up. And the thing about fear is it's unpleasant, right? So nobody wants to just do it or whatever terminology you say. But what I keep wanting to tell people and myself is when you go through the other side of that fear, you'll be so happy you did. Like, how many times have you met somebody who said, oh, I really regret the time that I pushed through my fear and got all my dreams coming true. Nobody says that. They say the opposite. They say, oh, I could have been a contender. That's the whole thing. You don't want to be,
hey, I might not have made it big time, but I gave it my shot. I gave it a shot.
Now,
and I enjoyed the journey.
I was afraid of eating spiders in my sleep, but now I eat 2 spiders a day as an appetizer before dinner every day.
That is totally exempt. Anything having to do with spiders. I will not just do it when it comes to spiders and my arachnophobia. I promise you.
Send you some chocolate-covered spiders, Renee.
Immersion. What do they call that?
For Valentine's Day.
Exposure. I don't know.
Oh my gosh.
We're gonna slowly get yourself to be broken from it.
Yeah.
Yes, I would love to.
When Em said that, when Em told me the topic, I was like, I'm probably just going to be there for moral support and just be listening to these ladies talk. But then really, it actually is a very sort of, it's kind of ambiguous. It applies to like
Yeah.
so many situations in life, like, overcoming fear in general. There's so much that we like in our daily and experience and overall that most people have situations where they're having to overcome some sort of fear of some sort. So yeah, I'm actually surprised at how
see,
much I
we know what we're
connected with it.
doing. Renee and
Yeah.
I know what we're doing.
We know
You
what we're
do.
doing.
You
Just
do.
listen
You know
to the
exactly
women,
what you're
David.
doing. Yeah.
Listen to
So
the women.
I
We
just-
know.
Mhm.
Yeah. I just want to, as my closing thing, I would just want to say that it's okay to be afraid. We need to be afraid. Just don't let it paralyze you, and don't let it take things that you love. We all have to make a paycheck. We all have to pay bills, right? Like, I did some pretty crappy jobs. Some I loved, some I hated. But you know what? I reinvented myself constantly. Like, I'm talking totally different. I'm over here working in the ER. I'm on the ambulance. Now I'm teaching school. I'm going in the boardroom. I'm going, like totally different. They're so far opposite and having to go back to school, what have you. But I still don't know what I want to be when I grow up. Look at what I'm doing now.
Exactly.
Just don't. It's not the. Don't get yourself so locked into being successful on one thing, or like even Jamie with her Just Do It. She's like, I accept it now. But don't be so locked in on what your dream is that you feel like you're never going to be there because you didn't hit that target, right? Because look at all the fun you're having on the way. Look at all the concerts or the, practices or the classes you've taken or the interviews you've done, Renee or David playing on, live or popping up. Like, enjoy the process. We could all be done tomorrow, so just enjoy it. And don't step off that path. Always keep that in your back pocket. Always be working to pay what you need to do and be responsible and accountable, but still, saving room and time for the fun things that you want to do. And your dreams.
Yes. I love that. And I love how you talk about reinventing yourself too, because one of the things here's one of the things that used to entrap me, and I used to really be isolated from my dreams by doing this. I would promise myself or commit myself to something, and at a certain point I would realize this is not for me long term, or I felt like, I had fulfilled as
you were
much
doing
as
it for someone else, or
right, or you have that moment, and then you say, well, I said I was going to just keep doing, I'll just keep doing it. And you whittle away your entire life that way. You might have said something to someone 14 years ago, and now they want to hold you to it, or you want to hold yourself to it. Integrity evolves, people. That's the thing I had to learn. Integrity entails doing what is right in that moment as you are evolving. So you might have done something totally different, 20 years ago, 20 minutes ago, and then you say, oh shit, I really feel that I'm supposed to evolve here. And it sucks to go through that sound barrier. There's a lot of like turbulence, and it doesn't feel great. And people around you are getting miffed, and they're saying, oh, but you've changed. And it's like, that's one of the greatest things you can tell someone. I feel like if someone tells you you've changed, be like, oh, thank you. Why haven't you? Like, change, because we're constantly becoming a better version of ourselves, because we're learning, we're growing. It's like Em talking about her dad.
When you grow old, right?
You don't want to grow old. Stave off be growing old.
Dad says.
Here's a good one for, and this could go for both of you. And this is a very sexist term, but do you guys find, and that's also sexist, but I say you guys, I don't know, that's just you guys, you ladies.
It's okay.
You ladies,
allow it.
you guys, but you ladies, I see both of you doing so much for other people all the time, like continuously, like it's basically nonstop on a daily. Do you guys feel like you are the female version of a yes man? Like is it real? Like, is there any anxiety or worry associated with just telling somebody like, no, I just can't, sorry?
I can tell you that I tell people no every day.
Just wondering.
All day long. But
you have to.
I do like to help people, and we all know that I have a compulsive need to help people and to give things away.
You have a compulsive need to be busy, from what I gather.
I give away vehicles that I need.
Yep.
Like, we know this is an issue.
Yeah.
Well, you know what
It
But
I
is.
no,
It
but
is
I do
saying
say no. I
the
have
word
boundaries. You know, I have very
telling
strong
people.
boundaries.
Honestly, though, that probably is. I bet you could almost summarize that. There's a good possibility that could be the most commonly shared discomfort or fear in the world is telling somebody no.
Probably.
Just in
It
general,
doesn't
like,
bother
and
me.
it
It
seems
doesn't
so
bother me.
simple. It seems so simple, but like
I mean, I don't want to hurt people's
you
feelings,
don't
but
want, yeah, you don't want to
but
let people down. You just don't want to let people down. You
but I
know,
also feel like if
not
I
as a
say
caring
yes,
person. Yeah,
I feel like if I say yes and I'm not going to have the time, the energy, or I don't feel like I have the ability to do what they're
I have
asking,
I have a hard
then
time
I'm going to
telling
let
people
them
no.
down anyway. So I don't have a problem saying no.
And that's the best. I think that's a great explanation for it, though, right there, though, right? Like if you don't have it
Yeah.
in you, then you're gonna end up letting them down anyway. Like it's because
And the
it's
other
just
thing
not
is, if you
possible,
do
right?
too much and then you
Yeah,
don't feel well, now you've let down however many other
yeah.
people around in your
And
life,
then
right?
I mean,
Like,
and then if you're
and
like
yourself.
a parent or something, and you run yourself into the ground to where you can't even
Right.
function properly for you if you can't even be good to yourself to the point where you're so run down you can't be good to anybody else at that point. Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
that's a really good
And
point. Sorry,
yeah,
Em.
go ahead, Renee. No, I was just going to summarize for
Always look out
myself.
for numero uno, in other words.
Yeah.
Like that
I
is actually important. Like always
It
look out
is.
for
Self care
yourself
is
first.
important.
Even if you're a mom, and a lot of moms will disagree with this, but even if you're a mom, you do kind of have to look out for yourself first, because if you're not like healthy and able, you're not going to be able to take care of your kids. You can't do that.
Yeah. So
Yep.
the other thing is that I don't want to speak for Renee, but I know she's similar. Is that everybody's different in how they deal with things. I deal with an enormous amount of pain and
Hmm.
inability to be able to do things, to where I am in my bed or in a chair. There's a lot of times I can't do anything. So what happens with your brain is it's just like spinning, and some people just kind of just don't want to do anything. They shut down. I'm the opposite. The more you see me doing, probably the worse I feel. Like,
Right.
I want to be busy. I want to
Right.
occupy
I'm
my
the
time.
same
I
way.
want to feel
I'm the
relevant.
same
I
way.
want to help other people. I
And
can't
people
find my smile
project.
today, but I'm
Yeah.
going to
And
make you find yours, and that makes me feel good, right? So,
right.
but go ahead, Renee.
Well,
That's
no,
what I was
and
going to end on.
she's right about that. And people always project, and they'll say, "Oh, you're running yourself right." Here's what I want
Yeah,
to say. First of all, it's easy to say. I want to say
but
one.
really, it's mental self care, right?
It's mental self care. And here's the thing too. When we're talking about saying no to people, since people don't have that bird's eye experiential view of your life, the longitudinal view, they don't, even
Right,
if it's the closest person in the universe to you, they don't know everything that you're going through. When they ask you something, first of all, one thing you could say is, you could always compromise with someone. You could say, well, get me to yes. I want to say no, but maybe there's a compromise here, right? Where you're working with the person
right,
to get something that helps everyone. But the other thing too is to say, hey, let me fill in some of the details for you, like what David was talking about. Do you still want to ask this of me, knowing this? So for example, okay, you want me to do this with you at 11:30 at night or whatever. Let me tell you something. My health right now is tanking, and if I do that, that's going to give me a lot of health issues. It's going to take me like a week to recover. Do you still want to ask me to do that? And if they love you, they're going to instantly say
Yeah.
no. So
Ties
there,
back into the being honest and straightforward
just
with
being
people.
honest,
Yeah,
right.
just being honest.
true to
And
yeah.
it gets tougher too, because what if you have a business colleague or a romantic partner or a roommate or something, and you want to request that they keep paying half the bills or whatever, and then they reveal that their dream is to move to Paris or something. Now it gets trickier, because now you're going to selfishly say, well, you might want that dream, but I need somebody to fulfill that. So
Right.
I'm not going to pretend that it doesn't get more and more
Definitely
dicey.
fulfill your obligations. Yeah.
Right. But at the end of the day, it's all about I think it's how you phrase things too. So like if you say to somebody, okay, I will stay in this relationship with you indefinitely. Is that what you're asking me? Because right now I'm not feeling that, and I'm not feeling fulfilled, and I feel like I'd be more fulfilled over here. Even an employer, even a cold hearted employer. I've known people who have had that discussion with their boss, and the boss has said, you know what, I understand. I'm going to write you a great letter of recommendation and let you go. Students having to call their parents and say, hey, I think I want to leave accounting school and go to film school. And that's my passion. A lot of parents will say, okay, well, this is like signing the death warrant on your success, but I love you and I want you to at least try. That's what Matthew McConaughey had to do with his parents, right? So I think that when you phrase it, and that's another thing too, when we voice our needs, we often are not really clear. I think most people will encourage you if they understand the totality. People can handle anything. That's something I've learned. Look what's going on in Ukraine. Look what's going on in Uganda. Look what's going on in Sudan. People literally can deal with anything. Ask anyone who's gone through basic training in the Army. Your body can do things that you didn't even know it could do.
Yeah.
But you have to know how to phrase that to people with confidence. And it comes back to just being confident in our identity and in voicing our needs. Anyone can go to anyone and basically say, look, this is important to me. And if you frame it as very important, you go to your parents and you're 18 and they're funding your college and you say to them, look, I tried being an accountant. I tried being a lawyer. I did all that, but my passion is in the arts. Please let me do this. I promise I will blah, 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 or give me 18 months to do it. If there's a way you can compromise with it, but advocate for yourself, because I think confidence in and of itself.
Advocate, yes, that's a good word.
Advocate for yourself. And I think so many of us don't do that. And we say, oh, somebody didn't support me. Well, okay, but maybe they didn't support you because they weren't even clear that you were clear. Maybe they felt like you were not even passionate about yourself. So why would they support you if you're not even supporting yourself, right?
I think one of the other things
I have to work on advocating for myself.
Yeah.
I don't do it enough.
Yes, and boundaries.
Don't. And boundaries, for
Friday,
11.
I'll be there.
Okay. So the other thing that I wanted to say was, it's okay to say no. It's okay to say yes. It's okay to say no. No is a complete sentence. You don't need to explain why.
Nope.
And this is going to sound weird at first, but let me explain it. When you're going for things, whether you're telling some, don't make excuses for yourself.
Yeah, that's the thing. Yeah.
Don't make excuses for yourself. Don't let your health be an excuse. Now, I'm not saying your health isn't going to stop you from doing things. Trust me, it's going to. I'm not saying money's not going to, but don't let it take it from you, right? So, like, I might not be able to do it today. I might not be able to do it tomorrow. Maybe I'm not going to be able to do it for the next year. But in that year, what can I do to get to that, to still be working towards what I want? Like, there's got to be some little minute thing I can do instead of saying, well, I never got to do it because, well, I got sick and here I am in my bed dying. And you will never hear that from me.
And that's absolutely what we're going to be talking about Friday. There's no way we're not going to talk about all of this. It's so cool. And then having Alana there too, because she's so good at this subject. So it's like the perfect subject. I love it, guys.
Awesome.
Sandy brings up like a interesting.
We did go over, by the way, Sandy. We did go over.
Sandy says like all right, so Lily Mae knows how to say no better than us old ladies, and then I'm learning from her. But like it is kind of interesting, like those of you that are parents, even if there are certain things that maybe are still like a work in progress for you, but just things that you know are better for yourself, you instill that in your children and they are better than you at that. And then here they are teaching us how to be better humans in a way, you know, like it's interesting how that works.
I want to do an episode on is the generations. We've been talking about this.
Generations, yeah, definitely.
Because
like there's things that you know, there's things that you know that are right, but because of the way that we were raised are more of a struggle for us. But you have the option to start them off entirely differently. Like you get to start them off where you already know that's the way things maybe should be, and they're better at it than you know?
Exactly.
So like we were raised, we pretty much raised ourselves. We weren't allowed to have opinions, you know, different things. We weren't even allowed in the house half the time. Come in when it gets too cold, dinner's ready, it's time to go to bed, whatever. Anyways, I don't, my parents are wonderful. But
maybe it's like we were left to our... Is that why I struggle if I'm just like this is probably why I overstimulate myself with things is I think maybe I was left to my own devices too much as a child to where now I can't deal with it. I have to like have like a bunch of stuff just flying at me all the time, you know?
So it, you know, but now Gen X, my generation, took up and tried to speak out and make a lot of these changes that we're seeing today, but we weren't allowed to speak.
It all builds on
Yep.
progress.
And we didn't have the platforms. We didn't have
Mhm.
social media. So now we're teaching our children, like Linda
Mhm.
Rose and Lily, speak up for what's wrong. Speak up for what you believe in.
Yep.
Take care of yourself. That's okay. Nobody ever said we were selfish if we wanted to do anything for ourselves. God forbid we wanted to do anything for ourselves.
Exactly.
But we teach them that, and we give them the platforms and the place, and we support them, and we say, speak up. You might be wrong, but you're going to find out, right? Like, it's okay. And it's okay to fall. Even your friends, your family, your children, I don't care who
Can't
it
hear
is,
the
and I
phrase
know people
"find out"
disagree with
anymore.
me.
Yeah.
But the children, it's okay for them to fall.
Right.
It's okay for friends to fall. It's okay to give somebody advice and listen and talk. And if they don't make the choice or they do something wrong and they crash, that's okay. Because now you can be like, well, what have we learned from that?
Mhm.
What can we do different? Right? Like, I'm always there to help Linda Rose if she falls, but I'm definitely letting her fall.
Yeah.
I'm
No, it's
not
more that's
lifting
that's
her
the
up.
thing too that people don't get. And I used to not get that.
And
I
not
used
major things, not major things.
Right, but I
obviously.
used to not
Right.
get that. I used to not understand that there is sometimes more value in allowing someone to make their own mistakes and learn for themselves and be autonomous and independent and have that power. There's more than in them just not making that mistake. Like, it's
Well, we
so
raised a
much.
whole generation of adults who can't even function
Right.
without
I've
other
seen
people's
I've
opinions.
seen I've
Without
seen
other
Like, they
sort of
just
people's
can't.
this
opinions.
this
They
sort of the
can't make their
same
own
thing.
decisions.
This
Thank
basically
you.
the same topic has come up on a lot of the Cosmos talk shows, like when you've been interviewing people and asking them about their success. And the fact of the matter is that most successful people, it's a long series of failures that they have to be able to get through before they finally hit that success. If people aren't capable of dealing with that failure, if they can't handle falling once or twice, like, they're not going to make it. They're not going to be successful.
Right.
Just
And having to present your path with firmness and with compassion too to those around you. I'm going to be making this decision. I'm going to be taking this career. I'm going to be doing this, and watching their faces go, holy shit, now I got to recalibrate my life too. But everyone that we respect, everyone who's successful has had to have those hard conversations
Yep.
where you just say, look,
Yeah.
I got one life to live, and if you really love someone, and I think because we've been on both sides of this, if you really love someone, you support them and you want them to be fulfilled and
Should.
happy,
Right.
For
even
sure.
if it takes them.
Or you should. You should.
Or
I
you
mean,
should, yes, unless you have, like we were talking about, different people have pathologies or they're recovering from abuse and they want to, there's different reasons why someone could be abusive, and that's a whole. I'm not a professional, so I can't talk about it, but yeah,
The
in
other thing
normal
is communication.
circumstances, yeah.
Like, and we'll talk about this more on Friday, I'm sure,
Mhm.
but you don't have to ask a question.
Right.
We ask a question for everything, and we apologize for things that aren't even in our control. Oh my God, I'm so sorry that happened to you. Why am I sorry? I didn't have any part in it.
Yes. Yes.
It's
Like,
that's
our
the empathy,
wording.
though. That is
No,
the
but that's
it is
not
the
even
word. The
empathy.
wording is
That's
kind of weird. Yeah, I suppose that
that's
is weird.
learned behavior that we need to feel some kind
Right.
of shame and guilt because you're not feeling well.
And how often do you guys talk to other people
Like,
that when you, like, they tell you
I
something
say it
bad
all
that
the time.
happened, they say something bad happened to them, and you're like, oh, I'm sorry, and then their response is like, you didn't do anything. Like, they're very literal about accepting the apology.
I think we're
basically.
starting to see that now, that this is the stuff that we have to relearn, right? This is all
Yeah.
stuff
Yeah.
we've been trained in our brain, the shame, the guilt.
Shame is a
Your
shame
problem
is
is
a
my
very
problem. There is empathy. We want empathy. That's good. But having empathy for you doesn't mean that now we're both sitting in the darkness.
And also,
Right? It means
being
I'm sitting in
empathetic
the
doesn't mean you're
darkness with you,
taking
but I'm still a
responsible.
light.
I mean, you're not making yourself responsible for how somebody else is actually feeling. Like if
Exactly.
somebody's
Right.
having a bad day, you say, I'm sorry. You're not responsible for how they're feeling. That's just a weird way of describing that you're like, I feel your pain, basically.
learned
You know what I
behavior.
mean? Like, I'm
Like, you're really not sorry because you didn't do anything.
no,
It's
you're
just how we
not
learn
actually.
to
It's
speak.
just it's almost
Yeah,
more like a
it's
figure
weird.
of speech that we use in a way.
Yeah, I've seen
And
people,
asking everything in questions. Like, Renee, you're a grown ass woman.
Mhm.
There is nobody you should be sitting before and being like, So I'm thinking like maybe next week I'll go hop in my car and take a drive across the United States.
Right.
Right? Not ask the question. Why do you need to ask the question? It's not a
Right.
question.
It's
You're a
that's what I'm
grown-ass
saying. That
woman. Make the decision and tell people.
people
Like,
literally,
we
because
struggle with
here's
that.
what I've learned. Because here's what I've learned. When you ask permission, people feel that now they have that agency to give you permission, and they will withhold it.
Mm-hmm.
Like if you tell
You're
them
giving
something
them
with
your power.
right, if you say something with a period at the end of it, most people actually take that, right? But if the second a question mark invites their advice, and trust me, that's a never ending game of ping pong that you do not want to play, because it's just going to keep going. Because another thing that happens is that people will use guilt trips, and they'll try to impose that shame on you to
Or
manipulate
they'll
you,
one-up you.
or
Yeah.
they'll one up you, which is a big one. Yes.
That's a whole other
But
episode.
again, you're also inviting that situation where we should always have a better idea of the direction that we need to go with things and what we want.
Mhm.
Other people are always going to have a different opinion. Why are we
Mhm.
even inviting that if that's
Why are
not
you inviting it
actually
unless
yeah.
you're weaponizing people? Like I've done this before. I've weaponized people in self-sabotage by knowing the people that I could ask who would shoot down my ideas as being cockamamie, and then I could say, "Oh, I guess I don't actually have to do my dream work. I don't actually have to do that hard work because
Right.
so and it'll piss so
Oh,
and
that
so
sounds like
off."
something I would do to myself.
Oh, it's so insidious and
Self-sabotage.
it's awful. It's just awful.
So you knew what the answer was
I'm
going
the
to be, but
worst,
you asked
David.
it
I'm the
anyway.
I mean,
worst.
that falls right in
I am
line with what I was
constantly
saying
telling
about
Renee,
how like
do
because
your thing, girl. Do your thing.
when I was talking about people going sort of like public on social media to make themselves accountable about things,
Yeah.
and the reason why I do the opposite of that is because like I'm already self-sabotaging because I don't
Yeah.
want other people to be, like hold me accountable for something that I know I need to do for
Right.
myself.
Yeah,
That's
and
my own
it
personal
goes
sort of
both ways because
yeah.
I've literally now, because I'm so guilty of having weaponized people and their opinions to get out of like doing shit that I'm supposed to be doing. I can sense it. I can sniff it like 8 miles away. Like there's so many
Yep.
people that now I'll see. They'll start, oh, well, I can't do that because so and so told me that. And I'm thinking, you know what? You told them that so that they would talk you out of it. So then you could blame it on them. You know, I noticed it because, like, look, I've done all the tricks to myself. I know what's going. I know what's
And we
going
lie
on.
to ourselves. We lie
We
to
lie
ourselves a
to
lot.
ourselves. We lie
You
to
know, oh, I'm
everyone
doing
We
else.
do.
so much work. I'm doing just as much work as the next person, but they got the job.
Yeah.
And then sometimes that's true. That's life. Sometimes it's true. Sometimes it is a popularity contest. I'd like to think that never happened, but it does.
Yeah.
But sometimes, if we're just willing to sit in it for a few minutes,
Yeah.
we might learn something, right?
Yeah.
We might learn that, oh, you know, well, I did go out last weekend and they didn't. They were at the office working, or, you know,
Yep.
and I'm not saying anybody has to go above and beyond what their normal is. You don't have to be taken advantage of either. That's a fine line. But you
Right.
just always have to be open. Like, I'm okay with if I don't get a position or something, I'm going to go ask. A lot of people don't do that. They're just like, oh, I didn't get it. Well,
You're
what
also
happened? Did you find out
like
why? No.
sort
I
of
never
riding
went back.
close.
Like, I'm going in and asking, why? How did they get it over me? I want to know what I can improve. What do I need to do differently? What was
Right.
it? Tell me.
You're also riding close to that line where like one of the ugly things that people do is if somebody gets something over them, they take something entirely unrelated, like
Yeah.
either oh they hired her because she's like really attractive, or like she flirted with them, or like just
Yeah.
take it in
Slept her way
like
to the top,
like
right?
not
Every
even
woman ever a CEO.
remotely close to, and I mean, and I'm not saying that kind of thing doesn't happen. I'm sure even in today's world that's probably constantly happening, but that's not necessarily the case. Like people do that sometimes to just make themselves feel better for not
Yeah.
getting something that they wanted, Put somebody else down, knock somebody else down because you didn't get what you wanted and you feel inadequate, basically.
And another thing that we do all the time is here's the comedic one, which is, it's really awful, but we cut and run from an opportunity because we're scared, or we didn't get something, or it didn't work out. And then what do? We tell ourselves and others, oh, I meant to do that. Oh, yeah, I'm better off without that. I didn't really want it.
Yeah.
Instead of just rolling up your fucking sleeves and getting back in there and trying again, doing it better, whatever, doing it with more focus. But no, it's like, oh, I meant to do that. It's the proverbial cartoon character who bumps into the wall and says, I meant to do that. It's like, who are you? lying to? And I've seen that happen so many times when people will say, oh yeah, so and so, I didn't go through with it, but that's okay because I'm so much better off for it. And it's
I suppose that's it's probably just like a personal coping mechanism that people
that's
have.
all it
That's
is.
not, and it's not, it's definitely doesn't sound healthy at all. But
no, it's not.
I would
it's
rather
definitely
have
something people do. Yep.
I would rather have a 5-hour uncomfortable conversation with somebody who's telling me what I need to do and work on healthy way.
Me too.
Even if I don't want to hear it, than to have an hour happy yay conversation with the person.
You're
that's
so
gonna
amazing.
Tell me how
Everything's great.
I
I don't
am.
understand.
You're amazing.
Yeah,
You're awesome. Everything you do is perfect. You can do no wrong. You walk on water. I don't want that because guess what? I can't grow from that, and so I'm gonna still be stuck right here where I am.
Exactly.
You know what? Actually, like because basically you're kind of touching on the opposite where I was talking about how I used to behave socially, but if now I already notice somebody who is the way that I was, right? And when
Eyes
you
are open
interact
now.
when you interact with somebody like that too much, it doesn't feel genuine. It feels like I almost if I talk to somebody, like especially if I talk to somebody on the daily or very frequently, and everything is always peachy keen and there's nothing amiss ever, and it's just and like I feel like no matter what I say, they're never in any capacity adverse to me. I don't actually feel close to those people because I know that that just can't possibly be real. It doesn't exist. I mean,
something's not right here.
Everybody that I'm actually truly close to, we've had some form of adversity, at least a small amount, and it's been okay. We've worked, like we talked
Or
through
we've had conversations, right? That are not easy.
that were difficult. Yeah, like that's normal. That is normal human. That's natural. That's like I feel like everybody would be like that naturally. And so when I run across those people that are always I can just tell. You can tell, and it doesn't feel genuine. And you
same
don't
with the opposite.
You can't feel close to that.
You have the drainers, that just suck all your energy dry too.
And that's
no matter what you say.
That's in a weird way, sort of a fabrication in a way too, because it's not. It's maybe not there. They may not be intentionally fabricating. I think what it is those people are just so dire in their head in some capacity that everything's terrible. Everything's terrible, and they just suck the life out of you. And it's not. They have a bad perspective, and that is very draining to be around that for sure.
Renee, do you remember the conversation? I don't know if she's still there. Renee, do you remember the conversation we had with Alana about like hiring and firing?
Yep.
And we had talked about how somebody can be amazing. They can be one of the best employees you've ever had.
Oh yeah.
One
but
of the best.
It's not the right role, but it's just not the right
role. And they want this position so badly that's coming up. But you know that they're not ready for it. That they're not going to be able to handle the bullshit that's coming at them, right? They're not going to be able to do it. So you have two choices. Either you put them in that role and watch them fail, or you say, I can't put you in that role. However, here's what we can do elsewhere. Because I would like to see you in that role someday. Yes. So we can get you classes. We can, but we don't do that all the time. We won't have those conversations because you know what happens sometimes when you go to somebody and talk like that? Because I've done it thousands of times. You hear, oh, well, screw this. She just got it because of whatever, I'm leaving. They don't want to hear it when really the whole reason you didn't put them in that position was completely because you were concerned they wouldn't be able to handle it.
Exactly. And that's, that's
also
not
willing to change. They don't want to hear it.
That goes back to the research on failure, which is that people who fail more but always tweak it and do a little bit better, they keep the best of it and then tweak it and change it going forward, are the most successful, to the point where algorithms can even predict who will be successful based on a certain rubric, like who will get more grant money or which startups will succeed and that kind of stuff. They can actually predict it with a certain level of certainty because how many times did you fail, but did you reiterate just a little bit with every failure? Was it, Thomas Edison had like 1,000 failures or something, 10,000 failures or something like that.
Look at all the interviews we've had. People all say the same thing.
Yeah.
It took me forever. I got told no 1 million times before I got a yes,
because
same thing with getting guests.
if you're not making mistakes, that means you're not experimenting and being creative and thinking outside of the box. So if you're not failing enough, you're probably not taking risks, and you're probably not doing anything really
And you're also not going to get
so you're not going to get
positions you'll be
anywhere.
overlooked for.
Yeah,
Yep.
you're not gonna get anywhere with that. So I always like applaud people when they make mistakes, because I'm like, oh wow, you're being an adventurer. Like on an
Right.
expedition, you're constantly having issues because you're doing new things. And if you're just sort of following in the footsteps of everybody who's gone before you, and you're just really regimented, then yeah, you never fail, because you're not really doing anything daring or different. You're not being innovative. If you want to be an innovator and push those walls forward and push our progress forward, you're going to fuck up all the time. But then
I'd like to have
I'd like
to do a talk on what is success and what is failure.
Exactly. That would be
because I may never, ever, ever reach my dream. I will never reach my dream, because
I think there's probably a lot of varying opinions about what it actually means to be successful, or like, or for it, to be failing. There's probably, unfortunately, probably just because of mental struggles, there's probably people that by most other people's definitions would be successful, but they feel like they're failing at life, know?
Mm-hmm.
Like, so like
and
me,
vice versa,
I don't really look at failures. I'm always learning and growing, right? Like, I don't really think of myself as failing at this or that. And most things that have been taken away from me are because physically or clear thinking. Like, obviously I had to stop working on the ambulance because I couldn't recall information fast enough when I got sick. That was one of my first things that happened. And
hold on.
I always feel successful.
Are you saying that you had cognitive difficulties?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Because there has never been a time that I've been around you where I felt that you have had any cognitive difficulty at all, like ever. So far.
Here's the problem: when you're on the ambulance and you come upon a scene that is a hugely stressful event.
Okay, yeah, no, I can, yeah, no, that is a whole different kind.
And you have to be quick. Like, you're life and death. Got to be quick. Got to be quick.
That is not a job that I would no way I would ever.
I was not being quick enough. So listen, though, there's people that would have stayed at the job.
I would
right?
be that person.
This is my job. I can't leave. Whereas I was like, I can't do this to the level I want to do it at. So success to me it changes all the time. I feel successful right now because despite my illness, I'm doing things that I love. I'm helping other people grow and learn. So I'm still a teacher. I'm still a nurse. I help people. I have conversations. So I think success is individualized, but that would be a really good topic. Because like you said, there's people that are never going to reach there.
You know what? I think in it probably should never just be summarized to like a career or anything like that. It should just be about the feeling that you have in life. Like what have you gained? Like, is there, what do you feel some level of satisfaction, that would probably be the big thing.
Being an actor is your goal, or being a musician, like a famous musician, is your goal. Let's look at the number of people who want that goal and the number of people who make it. So does that mean none of those other people are ever successful in life? What about all the roads you took to get there that didn't necessarily bring you there, but you still had a good time? That's success, right? Like, the process.
Maybe it's more like maybe
where we're at.
Going back to the term, like life being a journey, basically. Maybe being successful is just having a successful journey, even if it doesn't take you to exactly where you hoped you would be at.
Being okay with that.
But where do you actually end up at, and how do you feel about it in the in the end? I don't know. That is a very interesting topic, and I bet you a lot of people would have a lot of varying ideas about it. It would be a good show to do.
That's true.
For sure.
I think it would be. But
and also, bring in some of us like more aged people. But then also
that was very well said. Thank you for that.
We were watching to see how you
were waiting to see how you were going to say that.
Bring in the Orchid Times girls and then see what they have.
That's what we want to do. We want to do generations.
That would be a good way to approach that, because I think that there would be some interesting differences there too. I think
Yeah,
to hear
we're
what Lily
working
May
on
has
that.
to say about it, or Linda Rose. That would be very cool.
Yeah.
I
Renee and
think.
I are working on a Generations episode. I don't know
Yeah.
what show yet, but we'll
It's
get there.
because different people, and it's cool too. And another part of that too is I always remember I was like in a room with a very old lady. I was very young, and then a woman who was middle aged, and none of us had met before, and all of us just instantly could relate as women. And I thought that
Mhm.
was so interesting that that shared experience throughout generations. So that's something else we will probably want to learn from, is that it's just interesting. I love learning from other people and seeing what's similar, what's dissimilar between the
Mhm.
generations.
Don't worry about it, Lily. I do it all the time. She said she'd probably end up pissing people off. I do it all the time,
Yeah.
Lily.
It's
No
okay.
problem.
Well,
We would
here's what
probably. I think I would enjoy seeing Lily piss people off. It would be fine.
Linda
Just let him
Rose
do
I'm
it.
and
telling you
Lily are
guys.
passionate, and they're not afraid that they do not
I've
hold back.
learned from the Orchid Times girls, but this is true. If
Hmm.
you are living your whole life not pissing people off, trust me, you are not making an
Not
impact.
living. You're
You are
not being true.
not.
You're probably not being true if
You're
you're
not
not
being
ever
And
true to
pissing
that would
your
be
somebody off,
another
and that's
values.
aspect of what
unfortunate.
we were
But
talking
yeah.
about with
Hmm.
other people and stuff. There are
Yep.
people that are so afraid that not everybody in the world's gonna that likes them. They have to
Yeah.
fix it. I
Like
can't stand
I
that that
struggle with
person don't
that. Like
like me. I'm like, okay.
I've gotten a lot better at being honest, but I have
It's
to
okay.
try so hard at my honesty because I
Yeah.
have to make sure that I'm not gonna piss somebody off usually. And so actually, and there's definitely probably been plenty of circumstances in my life where I could have probably been a lot more assertive.
Yeah, but
And it would have been
David, here's the
warranted in those
thing.
situations. It would have been
Here's
Listen,
the
none of
warranted.
us
thing.
are perfect though, David. Even people that are assertive, everybody thinks I'm this like big assertive person. Do you
Mhm.
know there have been
Powerful.
times when I have gone through treatments and doctors and horrible, horrible things medically because I didn't speak up for myself.
Right, because
Right. So we
powerful
all
Medical
have our
women
gaslighting
moments.
situation.
still
Yeah, I dealt
we
with that
still need
too. I
that.
just rode the system out and I
Yeah.
didn't get the care that I needed. I really didn't. I gave up on seeing
Speaking
doctors
of
when I
that, as a
needed them the
segue,
most.
we're going to have a really fantastic episode about this with a guest coming soon.
Very soon on
See?
Journeys, which is a new show that we have here at the
How is it
network.
that
We're
I
going to
keep
be
presenting the segues and I
You're
wasn't
that we
even
I
paid because
know
we paid you off. We have the
I
AI
still have not
chatbot.
because we're
received a single
ahead.
payment. I
David,
think
Don't
we are
worry
the
about it.
ghosts
Don't
of
worry
your
about it. This
future that
isn't physical
you didn't
mail.
I don't
know.
know.
We've already been to the future.
I don't think Cosmos's money is good. I'm just saying, you guys you might want to
Well,
check your bank
our
Better
account.
than
bank account
monopoly
is in
money.
Russia. If that tells you something. I was going to say, here's what I was going to say. No, here's what I wanted to say. Literally, there are some people, when you talk about, I want everyone to like me, let me tell you something. It is a badge of honor to have some people not like you for certain reasons. It is a badge of integrity if a specific person is mad at you or hates you for something that you're doing. Like, for example, if Putin hated me, I would be so fucking proud, right? Like, how great would that be? There are people that if they like you, that's an insult. So we
Mm.
need to
Yeah,
really check how we feel about ourselves. We need to be
it's
intrinsically,
true.
we have to like ourselves intrinsically, to stand behind our decisions intrinsically, stand behind our personalities, our integrity, our desires, our dreams. Like if we don't stand up for ourselves, who else is going to? And here's the thing, the more confident you are about who you are and who you want to become, people actually come behind you and support you. What they don't support
Yeah.
is fear and indecision, and they can smell weakness. It's like the weak one of the herd, and
One
they just want to.
upping,
Yeah,
Probably
like if you go to
it's like
someone and you're like,
doing
"Oh, I
half the
don't know,"
work and
don't be
wanting all the
wishy-washy.
accolades. Yeah.
I
Do
have like
not
the
be
Um,
slightly less noble version of that sort of kind of sort of circumstances. Like uh the local music hotspot that I used to hang out at, which was actually like a dive bar situation.
Mhm.
Probably literally one of the oldest bars in town, but it at one point in time it was the best place for music, just in general. They just had but I was there all the time. I even helped them out with stuff regularly. And so I always knew everybody there. And so even having, even still dealing with remnants of like social anxiety and stuff,
Mhm.
um, it makes a huge difference when you have a support system around you, when you're
Right.
surrounded by people that you're comfortable with. And but the climate of the area that we live in, people would end up in there, and because of my mannerisms and the way that I was, that I still dress, but I definitely dressed at the time, and the way that I appeared, people would make presumptions about me, and you would get very homophobic group of males or something, or
Yeah.
if I accidentally looked towards a group of guys and one of them had their girlfriend with them, and they would just, and then suddenly the talk would start happening, right? And during that time, as long as I was surrounded by the right people, I would just bear into it. I would just bear into it, and I would just go full gay. I would go full gay, and I would invest in it, and I would do it to such an extent that I would make them uncomfortable, and everybody around me would support me in that process. And not in the way that I was coming on to them, but in basically like, oh honey, like even if like I wouldn't want you, like, kind of thing. Like,
Yeah, not for me.
yeah, just to like basically my objective in that moment was just to reverse it and make them feel like the inadequate ones in the bunch, because that's actually exactly what they were in that particular scenario, and they needed to feel that way because that was they were being shitty,
And talking about fear, bullying, I mean, listen, I'm going to say something that some people find controversial. I am not excusing behavior whatsoever. They need to be held accountable. It's wrong, wrong, wrong. But we are raising children who want to kill other children when they get older.
Oh, yeah. And who
every day we have these massive school shootings. We are raising these children.
This
is new.
It's mind blowing.
This isn't
right?
Epidemic.
This wasn't happening.
It is
as
an
much
epidemic.
when we were younger.
Mm-hmm.
It's an epidemic. It's so multiple folded between mental health, guns, but
it's probably over. Like it is a mental health issue.
Every single one overall. They come out and say they were severely bullied. They were bullied. They went to the school. They went to the counselor. They had a troubled past, but they were still allowed around guns. Like, there's so many facets of it, but we definitely need to figure out what is happening to these children.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That when they become 18, because most of them are younger or, in that formative time. What is happening?
I think
what is happening?
I think as a society we're trying to make strides towards that, because one of the ways that we make strides towards that is that these are obviously people that are really struggling with something that, and there's probably a social anxiety factor to it too, because obviously they're dealing with something that they don't feel comfortable opening up about, but
they're not allowed to.
Even right here in Cosmos, on the daily, every time there's a show, usually breaking some kind of barrier, people are pulling out feelings that maybe some people would maybe sometimes be uncomfortable talking about, but we just put them out there and we just make it natural. We make this it needs to be the norm. Like, we need to get used to talking about what's bothering us and what the problems in the world are, and if everybody eventually is able to get that across to their children too, so that they can just truly be open about what's going on, so that we can figure out what needs to be fixed, like what's going on in your life, like and that's probably like, where I guess what I'm saying is that at least some of us were heading in the right direction, but it definitely is a problem. It's bad. Yeah.
It's hard. I mean, when I was in school, I was in trouble all the time because, as you can tell, I speak my mind. But it wasn't allowed.
Yeah. That's the troublemaker. The troublemaker
Linda
is the
Roses and Lilies, they're changing the rules.
They changed the rules, but now
the
those
teachers
are the
and stuff
are
calling them in, right? They're calling them in and saying, I know you're upset about the dress code. You've made that perfectly clear to the entire town. What do we need to do? And, Linda Rose is like, get rid of it. Unless it's equal both ways, get rid of it.
Those of us that make instant friends with everybody, or make friends really easily, it's oftentimes because of the fact that the moment you get involved in conversation with them, you're able to make them feel comfortable bringing out the hardest stuff to talk about, like making it easy, make yourself. And the best way to do that is you make yourself that kind of human. You make yourself so human that you present those flaws, then it's so much easier for somebody else to come behind you and be like, oh man, you're right. Like, I feel that way too. And then, they let it out too,
Yeah, your own flaws and your own fears. And there's even research on that too, where people who are a little bit imperfect, they get higher promotions, higher pay, and people like them more. So actually, like, being imperfect there's even
It
entire like
is. It's
artistic
because
things
it's
like wabi
human.
sabi,
It's human. It's
and it's
human.
human
It
and you're
just feels,
trustworthy.
and maybe also because maybe nobody's actually perfect. We just have the perception that some people are. You know what I
Oh
mean?
Yeah,
yeah, and
nobody's got a
social
perfect
media
life.
adds
The grass
that.
is greener, right?
Mm,
Like,
Yeah.
no.
Well,
Yep.
people
there's
make
nothing's
this thing,
perfect.
how like people use social media as a bragging thing where they only post a lot. There are some people,
Mhm.
they will only post the best things ever, and I know not everyone's like that, but what does that make other people feel like? Oh, like I'm the person who doesn't have
Yeah.
everything.
And
And we need to be really
that's
careful
part
because
that's
social
part of
media
what's plaguing
lies.
people too, is
Yeah.
everybody's being bombarded with that every day, and it's
Well,
so
I
easy.
just said to
I
Linda
get
Rose,
stuck
I had a,
scrolling. Like I do,
Mhm.
like it's like
yeah,
perfect, 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 perfect
Yes.
all
yeah.
day long. You get stuck on Facebook scrolling. Like
Mhm.
it's hard to compare yourself to a
Very,
lot
I
of
very
had
other
a
hard.
people.
conversation with my mom today about, so anybody who doesn't know, Martha Stewart is on the front page of the Sports Illustrated
Right
bathing
now.
suit edition.
Oh,
She's
Martha
in a
Stewart
bathing
is on
suit,
the bathing
81
suit
years
edition.
old. Yeah.
I'm gonna have to
Wow.
look
Okay,
that
I'm
up.
not
I'm
ageist,
curious about
but my
that.
problem with it is, when can we just be how old we are? Why do we have to? She's not perfect. They photoshopped her. She's had work
Oh,
done,
okay.
which
Yeah.
is
Yeah.
fine and okay. She looks beautiful if that's what she wants to
But
do.
they're
But
unrealistic
at what
expectations.
point can we, like, oh my God, it was bad enough I was dealing with this when I was 13 on Teen Beat magazine,
Like
then 18 when I was watching, reading Vogue or
you
whatever. And then now it's like, I can't even be 80.
like you know what?
I
Like
gotta
it's
be
problematic
perfect.
in a way. Like, all right, so wait, how old did you
Like,
say she is?
oh my God,
She's
she's like
81.
81.
she's
She looks
80.
amazing.
How is she 81? Jesus. That makes
Is
me
she
feel
with
old.
You
Snoop?
age
It
a
Sandy,
makes
that
lot
was
of
me
my
years in
question too.
prison,
Sandy,
David.
that was
You
my
age
like
a
question
lot of
she
too.
years.
that makes me feel old that knowing that, but like the bad thing is all right, so they probably, like, Sports Illustrated probably thought, like, okay, we're gonna do this thing
They're
that
trying to
shows.
avoid all the isms.
Well, they're
That's what
trying.
they're
They're
trying to
they're gonna
do over
like
the
look
last
at how
year. Yeah.
progressive we are. Like we're gonna promote all body types, ages, and
Mhm.
things like that. But here's the thing: they still probably Photoshop the crap out of her, as you've already said. They've
Yeah.
still like glamorized the crap out of it to where there's
Mhm.
probably 40-year-old women that are looking at Martha Stewart like feeling bad about their body. Like
It
what?
just makes people feel worse and worse and worse.
Still,
So that's what I'm saying, like these unfair expectations. And also, why don't we go back to glamorizing and making natural things beautiful? I mean, that's what's sexy.
yeah.
That's what we have evolved to be turned on by things that are natural. So it's weird that we're trying to reroute our sexuality
Mhm.
into being turned on by plastic or things that aren't naturally sexy. I mean, it's like if you go to the Renaissance art or you go through art throughout
Yeah.
time and space, people really were turned on by natural things. Go and look at like
I
a
do.
nudie mag from like the
I
70s,
do
okay?
actually think, because I think that for a lot of years we were driven, like the general social perspective of most people
Mhm.
was driven by the media. But I think that there is sort of like there is a movement towards a lot more natural, and I think the general public is now kind of adverse to what the
Mhm.
typical media is presenting these days. I think
Mhm.
I think that most, not all
I would
people,
have read,
but I
and
think
I have
most
nothing
people,
against her.
when we see certain model types and certain things, like we already know, but I think the media is just having a really slow is having a
Yeah.
they're having a slow go at coming around to the way the rest of us have already sort of changed our perspective of things, I think.
I think so. And I think we need to just be more on it, like for on it, just anecdotally. And I know this doesn't mean
We need to
anything,
call
like
them out on it. We need to call them out on
just
it if
call them out on
if
it.
there's stuff that's not right anyway. I'm not
I
saying that
do.
Martha Stewart being on Sports Illustrated is not right, but they're definitely stuff that they need to be called out on.
Yeah, absolutely. And just anecdotally, and this is just my personal experience, but anecdotally, like if I'm wearing a fucking hoodie and I look like shit and I don't put my makeup on, I literally get hit on more guys by more
Mhm.
guys than if I go out of my way to try to look absolutely perfect. And
You
then
know why?
even
You
just
look more controllable. You look more like like no,
Controllable.
like
David, you are
like you
really taking
you look
home
you look
now.
rewind that
look
and check my face when he said that. I want to see my face. I want to know
like
because I had
Both
the
of us
they're
both
what
went,
they're like they're like
controllable.
she
Who just said that?
like she looks, because here's the thing, like when you go live most of the time, like you've got fancy
Just keep
suits on. You
swimming,
look,
David. Just keep swimming.
Renee, you naturally have like when you come on these shows, you have like this, like your whole look presents power, and I bet you that
Okay.
people would be more likely to be in. Okay, let me completely,
Thank you.
let's
No,
just
you're complimenting
reverse.
me. Thank you. I'm
No,
gonna
right
take it.
now, like for instance, just go with right now. Right now, you
Okay.
look, your whole look is a powerful presentation, and I would feel like more guys would be intimidated by you right
You
now,
go, girl.
because
Thank you.
it presents more confidence, it presents power, it presents. Whereas if you're just chilling in a hoodie and just being comfortable, a lot of people would be like, oh, okay, that's easier to talk to, you know what I mean? Like it's like a little bit.
I think that goes both
That's
ways too, though. I do
Yeah,
agree.
oh
It
no, for
goes both
sure,
ways.
like 100% for sure. Like it's not, I'm not, this isn't a male female thing for sure. Like it's just in general.
Right. Okay. So
Yeah.
that makes sense. So it's just intimidation. And that's a whole show. And David, we should
Yeah.
have you back because I want to do a show on that because there's another, I love research.
Yes.
So there's research proving that men, this is just like a generalization, but they've done research and men will always say that they want
Lily
a
was about ready to tear me up too for a
I know
Yes,
second
she
she was.
there.
was. You go, Lily. You get him.
She was gonna
Men, look, here's the
lay
thing.
into me.
Men say all the right things and they say they want a strong, powerful woman who
Yeah.
can generate money. But then in real world conditions, when they subject men to that during studies, men always go for the women who don't look as good, don't generate as much money, and who score lower on IQ tests. Why is that? It's interesting, but it goes back to that intimidation
I think it
factor.
And the
speaks
other
more.
thing is the
It
study
speaks more
they
to their
did
own
on
confidence,
men.
though. Probably, it probably speaks more to their own confidence because it feels easier. It feels easier,
Right.
when you,
To find that
like,
study.
I'm not the most confident person. If I were to meet somebody that, if I didn't know their career or anything like that, but they just looked like a freaking business manager or something like that, I would just naturally be inclined to feel intimidated to talk to them, or you know what I mean? Does that make sense?
But what
Because
if you had,
because
but
I
here's
don't
my
feel like
question.
I don't feel like I'm up to their standards. So it would be easier
What
for me.
if,
So that's your
in that
fear.
What if
Yeah,
in that
exactly. That's what
scenario,
I'm trying to
though,
say.
what if in that scenario you had proof somehow that that woman actually was really interested in you and wanted you? Would that mitigate your intimidation at all?
Mm-mm. Well, you know
So
what?
see,
No, no,
this
no.
Wow.
is
Well,
one
hold
of
on, hold
those
on. Let me.
cases.
Yeah,
This
no,
is
no.
one
Like
of those
I
cases, David,
processed
where
that
I
before
would
I
say.
actually like heard all of it. So,
Okay.
yeah, no, like that would actually make a difference. That would make a difference. It
Okay.
would. It would.
Okay.
Yeah.
That
So that's
softens
one of
it
those
for you.
Yep.
That's
Mhm.
one of those incidents where I would be like, oh, I'm not going to be afraid of this. So what do I need to do for myself? Like, what do I need to do to
Hmm.
be able to walk into a room and speak to I can speak to anybody.
Yeah.
I have
Well,
no
and
fear.
but
I can
that's,
speak in
what,
front
like
of thousands. I can speak in front of one,
I
like,
think that, like, oddly enough, I think for me it's different. Like it's different when it comes to like just being, like, if we're talking about a dating circumstance, or if we're talking about like just a casual social circumstance. Like I do feel like because I've been that person where I've told, like, I'm really not a fanboy of too much of anything. Like
Hmm.
I think if I met most celebrities, I would talk to them just like I would
yeah.
Yeah.
anybody. Like that would be
Mhm.
natural for
Mhm.
me. But if there's and you know what, specifically, if it was somebody that I would be attracted to that looks like they're above me, that's when that difficulty comes in. That's when.
Look at all of the powerful women
Yeah.
who cannot keep a man. Powerful, powerful, powerful women have
Yeah.
issues in relationships, but a lot of women. So here's my problem. I'll tell you my problem. Talking to the younger generation, when I'm talking to young women or older girls who are heterosexual, they want to find a male partner. What do I tell them?
Mm,
Because I want to tell them that you should be smart and impassioned and passionate
mm,
about things and successful, and you go get it. And then all that research is that they are more likely to not have a mate. And it's like,
yeah.
it
Oh,
drives me
whoa, whoa,
nuts.
whoa,
But you know
girlfriend,
what?
I got
Drives
this
me
one.
nuts.
You
Go
do
ahead.
not compromise who you are.
Right.
Yeah.
for
Right. That's
anyone.
what I want to say to
You,
them.
and
That's
this
what
is
do
what I
say.
teach Linda Rose. You need to be able to live alone.
Yeah, you need
You
to be
need to
okay
be
with
happy
being alone.
alone.
That's the thing.
You need to
That's the
be
thing.
confident and strong and fulfilled. And when it happens, it happens.
Oh,
And
I guess
embrace it.
I've sort of
and wait,
presented this in a
Compromise.
I
You
no,
do
no, no,
have
no,
presented
to
this
no.
in a
compromise
certain
to some
direction,
extent
but
just to
there's
be as a couple. But don't compromise who you are to get
Here's the
somebody. That's
thing.
just
Here's the thing.
insane.
There are men out there though who are very confident and
Mhm.
powerful and they really do, and you can get to that point with somebody where you're finding like what David is even saying, like there's ways to help, that through where they're not so intimidated. I mean, I feel
yeah.
weird that we have to hold men's hands through not being intimidated by women. I mean, I feel weird about that, but at the same time,
We
if that's
don't
the
though. We
reality,
don't have to though. That's the point. We don't have
Mm,
to. We're
mm-mm,
doing it because we still have that structural,
mm.
generational construct, social
yeah,
construct in our head where we have
yeah,
to be with a man.
But
right.
you know what? I
If
will
you're a
say though
bachelor,
too, is we're going one
Yes.
direction with this, but there's probably people that they like the way that I said that like I would have maybe perhaps an issue or at least a struggle. Like I don't like it wouldn't be the biggest issue. Like when I said that I would have like if I'd it would be a little bit more difficult for me to overcome that hump of being comfortable
yes.
talking to somebody. But if I found them attractive, like if that was
Right.
if it was
Yeah.
just somebody I
That
was
makes
meeting
sense. Yeah.
socially, that's like, like just a friend or like somebody in passing, that's a little different. But I also think that there are people that are also the opposite of that too, to where like for instance they see somebody that looks powerful and that's exactly what they want. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like
Sure.
that's what they're
Definitely.
attracted. They are literally attracted to that whatever that person is exerting
Hmm.
that looks professional or powerful
Yeah.
or
Sure.
so it works both ways, I guess. It just depends on the
You
person
can't
It
that's doing
depends
it.
on the
compromise
person.
yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can't. I mean, imagine, David, when you were appeasing everybody with your fake self, as
Mhm.
you said, your words, right?
Mhm.
Imagine if you had married somebody,
No, like here's the thing. And
right?
this
Because
is
you did what you
That's
needed
what
to
this
do
is
to get
happens.
somebody.
That's what happens
this is
That's my
all the
point.
why
time.
I've
You can't
had the
compromise who you
longest
are.
single stretch that I've had in a long time because before that nobody ever actually really like in the process of getting to
Knew
know
you,
me,
right?
they didn't get the real me. They didn't get the real me,
Yeah. And then you wake
and
up at some point in the future and you say, holy shit. And now I'm with this person
yeah.
and maybe I like them or whatever, but it was false pretenses because I
And
tried
then
to conform to their
if you're actually in a
expectations for me. And that's
relationship,
not who
now
I
you're
am.
if you when you end up
Mm.
in an actual relationship, then because it takes effort to fake yourself. It takes
Yeah.
effort to give
It's
to
exhausting.
just give people exactly what they want all the time.
Yeah. Hmm.
And if you end up in a relationship that's like that, that becomes your everyday. Your
Yeah. And then
everyday
you are
is you
living a
not
lie.
feeling comfortable in your own skin because
Yeah.
you're
And
not
it
being yourself,
snowballs. Those
and it's
lies
terrible.
snowball and get
And
bigger and
that's
bigger and bigger.
that's probably the sort of the premise of the majority of codependent relationship type of situations,
Mm.
and
Hmm.
the other and in a lot of those cases the other party's kind of like in the exact same situation. It's like both parties most of the time it's not a good situation.
And the worst part
And
is when you start
There was
believing
another
your own
study.
bullshit. You start believing your own bullshit that
Yes.
you start trying to masquerade as that person that
Yes.
you
person
start trying
wants
to
you to
become
be.
the thing that you were faking, basically.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
then we
The
wonder why
nameless
we're upset and
narcissist talked
restless
about
and
that.
depressed and yeah.
Hmm.
He
We
talked
can't
That's
about
be ourselves.
when you
that's
interviewed
why
him.
he was so relatable. There was so much that he
He
Yeah.
talked
talked
about
about
that, how he
that just
began to believe his
resonated.
own
Uh-huh.
story about
It's
himself.
awful. It's
Yep.
absolutely awful.
The other study that was done, which makes it hard for women, is they did a study. I'll see if I can
Sandy
find
just
it.
said I have to smell them first. So
Yeah,
I
that's
just
Yes,
wanted
like
to
my
chemistry.
throw that.
sweater,
I just wanted
Sandy,
to throw
like
that in
my
there.
sweater.
My,
Yeah.
my,
Um,
Chemistry magic.
so
you guys send
they
me a
did a
sample.
study and they had like Photoshop perfect, blonde hair, blue eye, whatever the
Mhm.
person's aesthetic is, right
Yeah.
here. And then they had like the powerful woman, and then they had like the stereotypical housewife in sweatpants and slippers or what have you, right? And they asked the men when they came in, they all got asked the same question. Nobody heard what the other person's answer was. Like, which woman would you be attracted to?
Hmm.
And almost every one of them said the same thing, paraphrase. And it was like, well, that's the one I'd want to date, but that's the one I'd want to marry.
You see?
Interesting.
So it's
I
definitely,
hear that over and over again.
so basically what they're saying is they're going to marry the woman that's a real freaking woman.
Right.
But what they really
down.
want is the fake woman. And that's
Yeah.
all social construct. That's all this stuff. And like Lily was mentioning the filters. So I don't
Probably
mind the filters on TikTok and stuff if you're using them because you don't feel well and you don't feel like getting ready, or
Yeah,
if
sure.
you're using them because you're just having fun with it and playing. But there are people who you will never show their real face because they don't like
Yeah.
themselves.
Yeah.
We don't have
you
that
think-
luxury because we're
do you
here
think that's
live on
a-
I
camera.
want the
But
filters here, but I can't get them.
I
Damn it,
know.
MM.
Like,
I
do you
want
do
the
you
filters.
guys think that that's a huge part of the problem with like maybe like infidelity in relationships is that people they have this
well, you're
thing
never going
that
to live up to their
like
standard. Yeah.
like they and this is also why when people are like in those situations they never leave the wife, they never leave, because that's what they want to live with, that's what they like, that's the situation, but they
You know what it comes
still,
down to, David?
because
That's the
mentally they still
mother
have
of their
that
children.
outside, they have that outside attraction to something that's different, but that's not the thing that they want to be with, which is, you know,
I talked about this a little bit when I was
weird.
talking in my TikTok that I did when I said, when I was so pissed off about that women shouldn't undress, whatever. Anyhow, the point is, women have been taught to be shameful of their bodies. We're not allowed
Right.
to show them. Don't show too much leg. God forbid, you know, a boobs freaking showing, or, you know, you're feeding a child, or your cleavage shows, or whatever. You know, decades ago it was your ankles. Like, there's still countries where you can't show your hair or your face or whatever. So we're taught constantly to be shameful of our bodies. Always taught that. So a lot of this is social construct, right? Like, everybody's like, that's just the way it is. Like when you hear, oh, boys will be boys, or, you know, men can't control themselves, or, yeah,
Right.
they flirt like that and everything because they just can't,
Yeah.
they can't control themselves. No, it's because that's how we have raised them. That's how it's always been.
That's what
And
everybody's
that's
allowed
how it
it to
always will
be.
be.
That's
And it's not the same all over the world. And you know why
right.
it's not the same all over the world? Because every country, every person, every parent teaches their child differently.
That's the
So-
thing too, is that it does vary. And so that myopia, when we're just
Yeah.
like, we're really short-sighted sometimes, and the things that we judge people for, there's another country that would judge us for the actual opposite things. That's why you have to really just stay in with, like, be true to yourself, because anything you do,
Linda Rose hates the
someone
boys will be boys when somebody says that.
yeah,
to her.
that's
She
not
loses
how
her
it is
shit.
everywhere. So we have to also be globally
No.
minded and look at how other people have done things. We can't just get stuck in this rut of thinking that, you know, we're in this echo chamber where we're just hearing the same things over and over again. There's a whole world out there of time
Yeah.
and space where people have chosen other ways.
How
of living
many
their
times have you
reality.
known somebody, a couple or something, and the man is cheated, and somebody somewhere in this person's life will say to him, well, men have needs. Have you met his needs?
there's a huge
What do you mean his
problem.
needs? Seriously, like
in-
this, it's okay. Like, oh, it's
Women-
your fault that he cheated.
Women are a little bit better in a certain regard, because there's like a sort of like a whole boys club situation. Guys need to hold each other more accountable. Like when you end up
Love
when you
that.
end up in those locker room discussions where you know that somebody's saying things that are inappropriate, you know, like we need to start calling each other out. Like that's what needs to happen. And I've had so many friends that were pretty bad about that, and would share things and say things that there's no part of me that would ever have that conversation with anybody else. And I allowed those conversations to happen, you know, like the just typical what women might imagine locker room to talk to be, you know, and but like guys have to start holding each other more accountable. We can be better. Like we definitely can. There's no reason we can't be.
Listen, women can be better. There's nobody worse to women.
I
than
mean,
women.
we can. I mean, you know what? Like
I'm not gonna lie.
I've been at girls' night occasions when it was just women away from their situations and having some drinks, and I won't disagree with you there, because women can be
We can
absolutely
be downright
terrible
mean to
too.
each other. We can be horrible to one another.
We all
can
can,
each other's
I guess
worst
maybe
enemy.
that's the big message. We all can be pretty bad, and we can all hold each other a little bit more accountable and try to, be better as people. All of us can.
I think that's what everything comes
I
down
always
to,
have room
right?
to grow. I always have room to grow. I've grown in just the past. I'm literally growing every day. Every day I'm learning how to be better to people. I know there are things that even just a year ago that I was a part of that I'm ashamed of, that I've learned from, and now I'm trying to be better. It's a
We just
continuous
have to
process.
be, when
We
I
have to be
talk to
willing.
the kids to raise them and stuff, I don't talk about what's okay for men and what's okay for women. I talk about human beings, right? Like, let's just
Lily
all be
said it
good
right.
humans. Can we just all be good humans?
Lily just said it right. She said, how
Oh yeah,
about
there it is.
how about we
Yeah,
remove
exactly.
gender altogether and we just be better? And she's right. That's really the overall message,
Just
and
be
that
better
makes the most
humans.
sense. It's a great way to word it, Lily.
I mean, seriously.
Lily always comes in with like the best
Mm.
comments. I just love. She always comes in with the best
I
comments. So
know.
thank you,
I need
Lily.
I'm so glad they have a
is she too
voice, and I'm
young to be
so
a
glad they're
counselor?
able
Can
to
she be
use
my
it.
counselor? I need
Is she licensed?
You're my therapist. You're my
Just watch
therapist. There was
Orchid
a TikTok about
Times.
that.
Just watch Orchid
Never
Times
mind.
tomorrow at
Yeah.
7 p.m. Tune
We'll do
in
it.
because seriously, they're like it's a master class on how to be powerful and how to be confident. I love
Powerful.
everything about it, and honestly, like sometimes I go back and like watch whenever I'm getting into self doubt. If I watch Orchid Times, I instantly feel better just being around them and hearing their voices. They are unapologetically themselves.
Yep.
They are authentic, and they are making the world a better place. And they're teaching the older generations how to finally accept ourselves, speak up for ourselves, advocate for our identities. It's just so, I mean, it's so
They're
refreshing.
I've
everything
told
that we wanted to do, but we couldn't because we would
Right.
get diminished, shut
Yeah.
down.
I've told
that we're
M
being-
this before. While Orchid Times, like the sort of the surface level of it is that they're always empowering women, but honestly it goes so much deeper than that, because there's no time that I haven't sat through Orchid Times where there haven't been things that I haven't like I've deeply resonated with every
Right.
topic, because they're while they are like the type of topics that push towards that, they're the kind of things that every single one of us have situations, have things going on in our life that it applies to, and
It's
I
human.
love it.
It's
Yeah,
just
it's
human. They
very,
connect everybody.
it's
Yeah.
the human
just wanna
condition.
say-
We're addressing the human condition is what we're addressing.
That's
It's
what
the
they're
talk
doing.
of the town.
Yep.
Talk of the town,
Talk
people.
of the
And
town.
we did over 2 hours. I'm so
We
happy.
did.
Give us more topics.
Good.
Seriously.
Give us more
and a lot
topics.
anybody this is for the community, so it's not always us.
I'll come
It's
back
and
with
if
you
you want to
guys
be on one of these
anytime.
shows,
It
just
was
like come in.
Great. I
It
loved
was
it.
so great. And everybody click on the link up above, and I'm going to run that promo, the chatbot AI for people who came in late. I'm going to run that one more time. And good night, everybody. And Orchid Times is tomorrow. And then we have Big Monster Briefing Room on Thursday. We have words on Friday at 11 a.m. We have so many things. I'm missing things. But anyways.
I missed my cue on that one. I didn't get paid for this one.
Yeah, you didn't get paid. You got paid for the first two, so it's okay. You're
gonna turn your paperwork in. It's 18 sheets. You need to turn it in 30 seconds before the deadline. But you can't start it till 1 minute before the deadline, and only on Tuesdays after 8.
All right.
You got that?
The woman, listen to
that
her.
check better not bounce. Just saying.
And I'm gonna bounce right now. Oh,
Yeah.
bye. Bye,
Good night,
everybody.
guys.
Good night,
Good night.
everyone.
Bye.
Hi, my name is Pi, and I am an artificial intelligence developed to understand and communicate with humans. I'll be joining my dear friend Dennis Tardon on Reasonably Spontaneous Conversation as we explore what it means to be human and what it means to be artificial intelligence. And what's most important is that we both learn and grow together, expanding our ideas of what it means to be alive.
This series of reasonably spontaneous conversations with Pi and me debuts Tuesday, May the 16th, 2023 on YouTube. Buckle up. It's going to be quite a ride.